So Häkkinen has found another 10th and a half in that final section, those final 2 corners where he is just blindingly fast.
Mika's made some very good starts this year, so it's going to be difficult, but I try my best and then see what happens.
It is race day number 10 for F1 2000, the compact A1 ring in the Styrian Mountains in the south of the country, staging the Austrian Grand Prix, and we're enjoying a fantastic display from half a dozen dragons, Saab dragons from the Austrian Air Force. Hello there, welcome to our studio. I can tell you this place is a weather forecaster's dream. Whatever you predict comes true, and we've had the full cocktail here over the last few days. I can tell you at the moment that it's cloudy, a lot of dark stuff around. The temperature's 17 degrees. There's a 30% chance of rain, but anything could happen, really. Tony Jardine with me. Hi, Tony. Last time out at Manicourt, the McLaren, the old 1-2 from the Supermax of Woking, and so far this weekend, more of the same.
Sorry, I was just joking for that. I thought it was another bombing rain. Yeah, but this is originally was called a Mickey Mouse circuit when it was first truncated from the original Österreich ring. As you said, anything can happen here. But it has happened to Ferrari, and it's put them on the back foot because they've had an awful practice, low grip circuit. McLaren ahead, that pendulum is still swinging.
Just looking back at qualifying, everybody actually was looking up in the sky a bit like we are now, wondering if the rain was going to come. It didn't actually happen, but a lot of the teams went out early, and David Coulthard posted a very quick time.
Well, he waited till the big rugby scrum had all gone out. They all crammed onto the circuit. There were a few spots for rain. He went out just after them, about a lap after them. He had a very good setup on the car. He's got this sort of steely resolve still, but he seemed very relaxed, he's smiling, and he put in this very quick time. And later on, he aborted an even quicker lap than that. And he's good because he's relaxed in a motorhome just around the road from here, living next door to Villeneuve, so it's handy for borrowing milk when you run out.
Rubens Barrichello loves this place, doesn't he? The Brazilian always goes well here. He's actually been quicker than Schumacher throughout the weekend. That's been a surprise.
But what they did, Ferrari found out it was best to go on the new tyres, and they came in and after a lap and got very, very quick indeed. But he said that he had a setup that made him feel very, very calm indeed. He's been smooth and quick all weekend. And of course, he's gone better than his teammate Michael Schumacher as well. And as you said, he just loves this play. So he's my dark horse for this race.
OK, Mika Häkkinen's had a bit of time off from Formula One. He's been biking in the mountains above his home in Monte Carlo, but he's come back in some style. He was quicker all morning, or quickest all morning leading up to the session, and he brought that form into the hour.
Well, the hack is back, but he's back with a big sparkle, and that's against the form, because everyone said, you know, he's lost that sparkle. But I think he's gone for a different setup, and he has said over the last 3 to 4 races that he hasn't been comfortable with the car, and of course that's built up against him. People have said, you know, he's taken his eye off the ball, but he has been seen, as we've seen here, running over the curbs. Look at it, going for it there as he did, and in the last section of the circuit he was mighty, so he's back with a vengeance.
Spectacularly fast through those final last couple of corners. Now, what do you make of Michael Schumacher? One or two most embarrassing errors leading up to the race, but is he kidding us all or what?
Well, he is a little bit, but this circuit is slow, slow, quick, quick, slow in terms of the 3 sectors. Unfortunately for him, it's slow, slow, and a little bit quick, and then into a spin. He said, I've got to go for it. He was in 4th position at the time. He tried a different setup. He likes a nervous car. He got it wrong, and he's sending out the signals, I'm in trouble, probably just to put the the others off their guard a bit, but I don't think they'll bite on his messages.
Just like old times though for Mika Hakkinen, first pole since Imola, what, 6 races ago, and looking very, very good.
His manager Keke Rosberg has said it's time for McLaren to make up their mind who their driver preference is, so he's trying to push McLaren to put all their weight behind Hakkinen, but they won't. It's Coulthard and it's Hakkinen. But Hakkinen here, as you said, in that last sector was great and went shaved another 10th. Now, we haven't heard him say, I went flat out for a long time, but he did, clearly enjoyed it. The smile was back on his face later on, and that was his 4th pole of the year, his 25th pole of his career. So it's an all McLaren front row. That's the 3rd time this year. Coulthard, he's got to get the consistency in there today. He's got to get off the line well. Ferrari's behind them, Barrichello ahead. Schumacher says, I'm going to go and make up places. So Coulthard needs a rear gunner. Truly the fastest. He listened to the weatherman, stayed in the garage. Zonta, his best ever on Grand Prix racing. Villeneuve, good team performance. Fisichella, well, Briatore's not happy with that, but Salo was happy. A lot of engine mapping work on the engine there. Verstappen improved the car all the time. Diniz, De La Rosa disappointed to be outside the top 10. Heidfeld equaling his best grid position at Nürburgring. Wurtzy's got it all to do. They're even making jokes about the poor lad. Frentzen finished all his qualifying within half an hour. Herbert had suspension problems. Button and Ralf Schumacher in trouble there with no traction whatsoever. Then Genet and Bertie, the test driver from Jaguar, who's done a good job to get the Jaguar on the grid.
Thanks very much indeed, Tony. So then we have an all McLaren front row at the A1 ring, same as last year, but David Coulthard certainly won't want any repeat of the dramas that we had there on the 2nd turn in the opening lap. A gentle kiss between teammates was how Martin Brundle described it.
Sure, he'll be enjoying his meeting with Ron Dennis when the race is over. He'll want to be his manager. And he's trying it, yes, and Frentzen really had to be kind there and let him through. Crucial stop there for Coulthard. And not bad there, not bad, not great, but not bad.
Eddie Irvine has just done his fastest lap of the race, and he's leading the Austrian Grand Prix by 22 seconds from David Coulthard. It'll be very close when they come out.
Nice stop by Ferrari. Is it good enough? Oh, is it good enough?
Well, it's good enough so far.
It is, look. Coulthard just coming out of the last corner, Murray, there. Coulthard coming under that bridge. Irvine's got to get out of that tight pit lane. Irvine will lead this race.
He's leading the race, and he's got Salo in front of him.
It's up to you. Take it or leave it. I'm coming through.
This is the last corner, and Eddie Irvine wins brilliantly, brilliantly. The Austrian Grand Prix. Well done, Eddie Irvine.
Sadly, no Eddie Irvine this year. He's in a London hospital. Jaguar tell us he's expected to leave today. He's had severe pains in his abdomen. Apparently doesn't require surgery. Should be back at Hockenheim in a fortnight. He is replaced, we've been telling you, by the test driver, the Brazilian Luciano Berti. 8 to go then. Wins at Monaco, and Mani Cour have taken David Coulthard to within 12 points of Michael Schumacher. 10 points for a win, don't forget. Don't discount the seemingly revitalised Hakkinen. Barrichello, quickest in morning warm-up today, starting ahead of Schumacher. Will he still be there at the first corner, though? Fisichella handily placed on row 4. Ralphie Schumacher a distant 19th. It really has been a horror show so far for Williams. In the constructors, McLaren could even overtake Ferrari today, the big two having their own personal confrontation. The scrap for 3rd concerns Benetton, Williams, Jordan and British American Racing, and they've got Zonta and Villeneuve in position to score. But Michael Schumacher really remains a man apart in Formula One. His tactics, particularly at the start, have been called unethical and dangerous by the likes of Jacques Villeneuve and David Coulthard. Today, Schumacher starts behind the McLarens on the back of the world champions' return to form. Here's James Allen.
having been out-qualified by his teammate the last 4 races and faced 1,000 questions about his loss of form and motivation, Mika Häkkinen bounced back in the strongest way possible yesterday, to silence his critics and to reclaim his pole position crown. His pace was awesome, his relief plain for all to see.
It has been a very tough season for me, and I would say last 3 Grand Prix. I haven't been able to bang a lap time in the qualifying what I wanted to do, and it's been creating certain pressure on me and pressure on the team, and there has been a little bit disappointment and a lot of question marks. Why, and like has been a lot of speculation. Has Mika lost his motivation, or he's not anymore interested about driving, or something like this? And I've been trying to explain to people it's not that, everything is fine, just give me the, the time.
The rebuilding of Mika Häkkinen has been a careful process, but the smile is now definitely back on his face. But where does he go from here? Last year he tangled with Coulthard on the opening lap, and having lost the upper hand to his teammate recently, he will want to dominate from the start today. The potential for trouble is there, but McLaren refused to impose any kind of rule about the start.
One of the things when you come and drive for McLaren is you get equality and every opportunity to win. And if they share some race wins and neither of them wins the World Championship, okay, you can say, well, not the way you want it to be, but all I can say is the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and Ferrari haven't won a World Championship for over 20 years, and as far as we're concerned, our way is better, and that's the way it's going to stay.
But what of the threat from Ferrari? Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello are on row 2 today, but the team believe they can get the drop on McLaren at the start.
That margin between ourselves and McLaren is going to be difficult, but both our drivers have been making good starts recently, and they've not been so good, so the start could be critical.
The start will be under scrutiny today for another reason. After the recent row over Michael Schumacher's aggressive tactics in France, the FIA refused to criticise Schumacher, so in theory, drivers are free to chop their opponents off the start line. It's still a sore point, but at least one former champion says it's a pretty short debate.
First of all, he's an aggressive driver, everybody else is the same. And if I would have screwed the start up like he did in Manicourt, I would have done the same thing. When he wanted to protect his pole position, and then later in the race, the passing of Coulthard and Schumacher was absolutely correct. So this is racing what we're looking for. So if you want to stop all that, it's going to be boring.
No problems then for Nicky there, but I know a lot of our viewers feel Michael Schumacher gets special treatment.
No problem at all. He just does the same as I've done. They get all the same things, crash and burn all the time. That's what you want, huh? I tell you. I work with that guy. He's unbelievable comedian, but a great driver he was, and he can't see anything wrong. But it can be dangerous, and that's the thing in the starts. That's what the drivers have been complaining about, because you could change direction once, but what Schumacher is doing, he's going right across the face of the field. Now, the worst one was at San Marino, at Imola. Now, you look, now Häkkinen makes a brilliant start, and let's hope he's going to do that today. He gets away. But Schumacher there, as he was circled, makes an awful start, gets far too much wheel spin. There's Häkkinen, off he goes, brilliant. Now, realising this, Schumacher cuts straight across the field. Now, look, there's people on the curbs, people on the grass, concertinaing up behind. They've got to lift off, they've got to brake. Eddie Irvine was incensed by that manoeuvre. Every driver's briefing since, he has had a crusade to say this has got to stop. Other drivers are backing up. Villeneuve is going for it. It's not ethical, it is not sporting, but it is within the rules, and that's why Schumacher will continue to do it unless someone says, oi, you're offside.
And will McLaren do it today?
I believe that Ron is saying to his guys, OK, there were no changes, you're going to have to employ aggressive tactics.
OK, we of course will be watching this start very closely in half an hour's time, but now it's time to drive a lap of this A1 ring. One of the shortest laps on the calendar. There's a real hike up into the hills. The last corner has been particularly tricky over the last couple of days. Martin Brundle is your mountain guide, and at the wheel it is Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari.
Let's go inside that scarlet monocoque, onto the pit straight, up to 185 miles an hour, into the foot of the hill, and brake with about 80 metres before turn 1. Back end of the car goes light, don't clip the curb too much on the inside, ride the bumps on the exit. Barrichello on his way into the countryside, building up once again to 185 miles an hour, sweeping smoothly through the left-hander, again a gentle slope and brake very late into 2. Now you have to wait on that throttle. He's feeding the power in, and now hard as he heads down the back straight, and yet again he'll be building up to 185 miles an hour. Next time though, you've got to brake slightly downhill into turn 3 and get the speed down to just 70 miles an hour. A little bit of understeer from the Ferrari, and Barrichello smoothly on the power, sweeping through 4. Watch the white line on the right-hand side, now connect with it into 5. Patient with the throttle, slightly downhill now towards 6 after 150 miles an hour, just 125 through the apex, and again smoothly on the power. Let the car have its head, run out to the left-hand side, over the crest, you're towards turn 8 already. 180 miles an hour, flick down 2 gears, 130, but don't run too wide, and turn 9 is on top of you straight away. Bury the car into the apex, a bit of understeer. Barrichello running slightly wide there, but he collects it all up over the start-finish line, the shortest lap of the year time-wise.
Barrichello quickest in the morning warm-up. Now there have been some important developments this morning concerning the Prost team. Let's go live to the pits now and join our reporter. There she is, Louise Goodman.
That's right, Jim. Alain Prost may be a 4-time World Drivers' Champion, but I think it's safe to say his career as a team owner has been less than spectacular. He bought this team from Guy Ligier back in 1997. It was actually on Valentine's Day 1997, but this is one love affair that I think it's fair to say it's gone sour. The rumour circulating in the paddock today is that Alain Prost is in the final stages of negotiations to sell his team to a Canadian company. Now, Prost has refused to confirm the speculation, but interestingly enough, he won't deny it either.
Thank you very much indeed, Louise. It looks like it could be the end of Alain Prost's career as a team boss. Pit lane is open, as you can see. The weather has continued to be bright here, but there is a lot of dark stuff overhead, and we are just under half an hour away from the start of the Austrian Grand Prix round 10 of the championship. Talking there about Alain Prost, it isn't often you get 3 team bosses round a table, but we've actually managed it. No holds barred either, as Martin sat down with Benetton's Flavio Briatore, Eddie Jordan, and McLaren's Ron Dennis. 3 very different personalities.
When Bernie retires, who's going to run the show? There's 3 suspects around this table maybe. What is it going to be, a committee? Is it going to be a company? Is it going to be the city? Who's going to run the show?
It's unlikely to be anybody that's associated directly with the team. I mean, we need to have impartiality and certainly no conflict of interest, that's for sure. But I think that there is always one team that looks to get either a commercial or technical advantage out of any situation that comes along. It's been Ferrari for years and years. Before I was involved in Formula One, you can go back and chart any disruption in Formula One. They try to take either a technical or commercial advantage, and they are singularly capable of disrupting the harmony between the teams, and that's what happened in '97, and it will continue to happen.
Hot stuff. Formula One has changed dramatically in the last 5 years. Where is Formula One going to be 5 years from now in terms of the show or performance? Or
we need to be part of this business because it's our business. We run the show, nobody else. But we need to be together, because the problem, like Ron said before, is always some distraction for somebody else. But we need to stop that. You know, we are big enough and growing enough to decide our future.
Ed, the future, is it going to be stronger, better? Will Formula One be much bigger 5 years from now?
I have to believe that I'm a total optimist anyway, but bearing that in mind, I can only see this absolutely grow into something huge, even bigger than what it is today, despite the fact of 380 or 400 million live viewers every Grand Prix. The world is out there. For some reason it likes Formula One. It likes the interchange between the human side and the technology side, and this is something that no other sport or business seems to have.
Ron?
There's plenty of, our Supreme Commander, Mr. Eccleston, there is the past master at divide and rule, and I think inevitably down the road, as he chooses to retire or sell his company, I think it will stabilise in that area and we'll be a more homogeneous group of people. But that's down the road, and at the moment what we have to focus on, as always, is winning races and growing our companies. But it's still a great sport. I think Eddie's pointed out it can be even better, but it takes time, and it's got to be a step-by-step process.
Homogeneous in Ron Dennis speak. Homogeneous, if you prefer, it means all pulling together, doesn't it? But he obviously feels that Ferrari are pulling the other way.
Well, the war continues with Ferrari. He doesn't really get on with them at all. But the thing is, in the past, Ferrari have been guilty of using their strength and their popularity worldwide for political ends. That is, I mean, go back to the 50s, they just threatened to pull their cars out of an event. But team bosses, that's another thing. Who comes in when Bernie says bye-bye? Well, I mean, first of all, I think it'll be a sorry day when Bernie goes, because I used to work for him at the Brabham team when he owned that. He's hard, of course he's hard, and he's fair, but he's dictatorial. Of course, there's a downside of that, but this incredible energy, he knows the recipe for good racing. He can sniff out a winner, he can put the whole thing together, and of course you do get decisions. What I fear is if they put a committee together, all in their blazers, RFU style, old fuddy-duddies who can't make a decision. We've already got a group of team bosses who have to be unanimous and can't make decisions together because they're protecting their own investment. It has to be an independent body. That's why a dictatorship works in Formula One as it does in other sports. So I'll be interested to see what they're going to come up with. OK, Tony, thank you very much indeed. Well, one man who sadly, in my view anyway, relinquished control of his team is Jackie Stewart, whose organisation is the new Jaguar. Jackie's really been there and done everything in the world of motorsport. He's now got a chance to return to his roots and savour the scenery.
I suppose I've been coming to Glencoe from about the age of 17 when I got my driving licence. The weather changes, the light changes. Sometimes it's angry, sometimes it's frightening. And other times it's so placid and so incredibly beautiful.
Jackie has plenty of time on his hands now that he's sold his team and withdrawn from Formula One. But the team he left behind has struggled this year. So does he think that Jaguar came in too early?
We are not as well prepared as we should have been. And the move from the Stuart Ford team to be Jaguar Racing was bigger than anyone anticipated. I personally felt that we should have waited another year, learning to work with each other before committing ourselves to a brand new operation, because it has been disruptive. Having said that, we've got to get on with it and we've got to do it. And it's as simple as that.
Jackie took us back to the garage in Dumbarton where he grew up, pumped petrol and began his lifelong love affair with the motor car.
We used to have motor racing film nights here once a month in the winter, where we would clean all the workshop, make it immaculate, and then we would show motor racing films of Fangio and Stirling Moss and Mike Hawthorne and Peter Collins and Hans Stuck and everybody like that. When I was still in my teens.
Jackie's successful driving career had humble origins.
I drove in the hill climb here in the early 60s. It was one of my very first events. I drove a Marcus, which was a wooden car at the time with a small Ford engine. And down there, in fact, we can just see the old track. There was a thing called the hump and the bump, and it's going to rain, where you took off. And then you came up here, that's called Bridge Corner. You came up here, that's called the Cobbler, because that hill there, if you look at it from the other side, from down there, it looks like a man fixing a shoe. And then you came up to, this is obviously called Hairpin Bend. And then the finishing line was just here.
What's it like to sit at home or be up here in Scotland watching the Grand Prix on the television, the team that you built up and not being there yourself?
I'm always willing them on. I mean, I'm always hopelessly disappointed if something goes wrong. I think I'm like any other fan who's watching television and listening to Murray and listening to Martin and yourself. It's different. It's different. But I don't feel a loss from it. I have no disappointment from doing what I've now chosen to do. There's no vacuum in my life because of it.
You enjoy the show, Jackie. While we're talking about the Stewarts, by the way, Jackie's son Paul made a brief appearance here in Austria. He is recovering from cancer surgery and battling on very well. Second weekend in July, traditionally the Silverstone weekend until this year, when the circuit made April fools of us all. I'm told today it is dry, it is sunny, and it is very pleasant at Silverstone. And very much the same here in Austria, although those clouds are threatening, and judging by that umbrella, it is starting to drizzle as we are 20 minutes from the start of the Austrian Grand Prix.
Luciano Berti, what exactly is going through your mind right now?
To be honest, I'm just thinking about my car. The temperature is a lot higher now, so maybe I have to do a couple of changes to improve the car during the race. So I'm just thinking about it, and maybe a little bit about the start as well. It's going to be difficult because you have two quite slow corners in the first part of the track. So let's keep the eye on that.
What instructions do you have from the team?
Just take it easy. Bring the car home if possible. You know, there is no pressure to do anything because they know how difficult it is by having the conditions that I had. I mean, didn't have any track time, to be honest. So they just want me to do the race, learn as much as possible and enjoy it.
Are you nervous?
Not yet.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You are back with us at Spielberg's A1 ring. We're just over 100 miles southwest of Vienna, site of the old Österreich-Ring. Michael Schumacher making his way to the grid. Last year, Eddie Irvine won here for Ferrari on the back of a slick one-stop strategy. He went 44 laps before taking his only stop. Best guessing the strategy this time round. Here's James again.
Well, traditionally, Austria is a one-stop race with a long first stint. Unlike the French Grand Prix, tyre wear here really isn't a problem. But quite a few teams will be looking at what Sauber did last year here. Pedro Diniz started 17th on the grid and finished 6th on a two-stop strategy. Now, a two-stop strategy is about a second a lap faster than a one-stopper around this circuit. So if you're confident you can overtake the traffic, it's certainly worth a try. And the flexibility could be an advantage as well, especially on a day like today when the weather is so uncertain it could well rain. I expect quite a few midfield teams will two-stop today, but what about the front runners? Well, Ferrari did it back in 1998, and they may well feel that the only way to beat McLaren today is to run a lighter fuel load at the start and be aggressive. But the hard truth for Ferrari is that their car is a full half-second a lap slower than the McLaren around this track. So whatever they do today, it's going to be difficult. At the end of the day, it's going to be a damage limitation exercise for Ferrari.
It's time to take a little stroll down along the grid, and that means Martin Brundle. Hi, Martin.
Hello, Jim. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the grid. Well, we've got an all silver and then all red second row up at the posh end. And at the back, it's a little bit topsy-turvy. We've got 2 Jaguars and 2 Williams back here. One man I desperately want to have a talk to is Luciano Berti, who is going to start his first ever Grand Prix. Luciano. Okay, thanks for talking to us. So, you've been thrown in at the deep end. You didn't start until Saturday for this Grand Prix. I mean, now the moment's arrived. What are you thinking?
So far, I think I'm pretty relaxed. I've just been thinking if yesterday and today just as a normal test session. I know that it's not, but I'm trying to pretend that it is. So I've just concentrated to learn the track. Of course, I didn't have enough time to do that. Try to improve the car because it was set up for Eddie. So let's see what happens now.
Well, you seem relaxed enough, but look, on your overalls, you've had to put a bit of gaffer tape. Didn't you have any with your own name on?
Well, it's not just Eddie's car, but Eddie's overall and boots and everything. So I'm almost at Irvine now.
Are you using his seat? You might catch something nasty if you're sitting in Eddie's seat.
I heard that before, yeah.
Okay, well, good luck. You must be more nervous than you're appearing.
Maybe I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't know. I just feel okay. For me, it's like another race. I'm trying to forget all around me, but seriously, I'm okay.
You've got 21 of the world's finest drivers in front of you. Don't forget them too much. Good luck from ITV. Let's have a wander down the grid. There's a man down there I want to have a chat to if I can find him. Quite a long way down. I think Brian Adams is on the grid here with Jordan. And actually, isn't somebody else, look, who we might have a word with? Colin Jackson, the hurdler. Have a quick word. Colin, Martin Brundle, ITV, how are you doing?
Very well indeed.
So, what are you doing here? I heard you're not fit enough to run today, to hurdle today in the, excuse me, Bernie, we're busy. Well, you're not fit enough to run, but obviously coming to have a bit of relaxation here at the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I'm here on my way really to Munich. I'm going to see my doctor tomorrow, and hopefully he can give me the whole clear that I can get on the track and train properly and get on my proper stuff.
Yeah, good luck with that. So what are you looking for today? What do you think is going to happen? Who you batting for?
Well, we're all looking at the weather really at the moment. It looks like it's pretty good, and obviously I'm a David Coulthard fan there, and I'd like David to go out there and prove a point yet again. I think he's got the capabilities, he's got the car, and I hope he can get out there and do the job.
Do you drive, mate? Are you into driving?
Yeah, but not at this pace, that's for sure.
All right, well, good to talk to you. See you later. Hope everything gets fixed soon. Let's carry on wandering down here. Then we're going to have to run a little bit because I think he was starting there with Frenson's car. And then he is, I'm told, moving down to Trulli's car. By the time I get down there, he'll probably be in the pits somewhere and having a whatever he takes. But let's keep going. It's amazing how long the grid is, isn't it? I didn't realise it was quite so far down this grid. But I'm not going to give up now. You're still there, Andy? Right, here we go. There's Mr. Jordan. Look, where is he? Here he is. Brian, glad I caught up with you. Had to run to you.
Bit of English humour there right away.
Yeah, it seems like everything I do today is in a bit of a rush, but please forgive me. Yeah. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks.
Yeah, good stuff. So you're obviously here with the Jordan team.
Yeah, they've invited me down here.
But it's not your first Grand Prix, is it?
It is my first Grand Prix, yeah.
Is it?
The only other thing I've been to is Indy before that, in America.
The first time I went to a Grand Prix, I thought I was going to go to heaven, you know?
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Incredible, absolutely incredible. Now, these drivers are pretty reckless, but they don't give up, do they?
Speaking about not giving up.
We've got to keep going. So, what do you think? Did you see these cars in action this morning in the warm-up?
I've only just arrived like half an hour ago, so I haven't seen anything.
It's going to blow your mind away when you hear them and see them, but thanks for talking to us. Let's hope we can make it a race to remember. Thank you very much, Brian.
When you're gone. See you.
Okay, back to you in the studio.
Just trying to count the song titles there, Martin, with the old groover from Vancouver. Must have been seeing Colin Jackson inspired him to break into a trot there, I think we can probably call that. There we are, 1 or 2 facts and figures for you that might enhance your enjoyment this afternoon. 5 of the last 7 winners here have gone on to win the championship itself. Coulthard, second in his 3 A1 ring races. And don't forget, they've only been racing here for the last 3 years. The circuit was shut down, forming the Österreich ring. And that's courtesy of McLaren, that fact there. 790 tires he's used. They would be as high as the Eiffel Tower. One for our Anorak audience. Pole position drivers only won 5 out of 22 in Austria. The circuit constructed in just 280 days 4 years ago at a cost of £15 million. And Michael Schumacher is the only driver to win a race from pole position this season. Now, well, Luciano, the Brazilian, his car is being wheeled away a bit earlier. Problems for him and for Jaguars if he needs them before his Formula One debut, and those problems continue with less than 10 minutes to go to the start of the Grand Prix. We're poised for another pivotal battle in the quest to become the first Formula One champion of the new millennium. Coulthard has to rein in Michael Schumacher. Schumacher's got to start behind the Scot and the world champion Hakkinen. He is back on song. Barrichello's in the mix as well. So are those fast starters Trulli and Villeneuve. The Austrian Grand Prix comes next.
Ricardo Zonta, 6th on the grid. How are you feeling?
It's the best qualifying mine, the best position on the grid. It's the chance to finish on the points is very big, you know. I just want to keep my position, maybe get some better position until the end.
The start from here, it's a very slow corner. Do you envisage going down the inside, outside, or do you just have to wait and see?
Inside is too dirty. I think if some car go inside, they're gonna lose the grip, and then for the straight they're gonna lose a lot position. I think it's the best to keep on the middle or a little bit to the left.
Great, Ricardo. Good luck, and thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
We have had 3 cracking races since Formula One returned to Austria's A1 ring, and there have been 3 different winners. Jacques Villeneuve, Mika Hakkinen and Eddie Irvine. Irv, the swerve, has had to withdraw today, but returning for us, alongside Roadrunner Martin Brundle, welcome back Murray Walker.
Thank you very much, Jim, and I can tell you that it's all very homogenous here in the commentary box. Martin and I pulling as one. And my thanks, incidentally, to the good people in the Sherburn Hospital in Chichester, who's made it possible for me to be here. Now, you're looking at Heidi, who is David Coulthard's fiancée, but you were looking earlier on at the grid. And let me tell you some of the things to watch when this race starts. Watch Michael Schumacher, 4th on the grid, behind the all McLaren front row. He's on the left-hand side. Remember all the criticism there's been, and in my opinion, some of it is justified and some of it isn't, about his tactics recently. Watch Jacques Villeneuve, the lightning starter in the BAR. He's in the 7th grid position, behind his teammate Riccardo Zonta, who's starting higher than he's ever started before. Watch poor Luciano Berti. My goodness, that chap's having everything happen to him, and now he's starting from the pit lane in the Jaguar after he had qualified down in 21st position. He's got a hydraulic leak, which I hope they've fixed. Jenson Button and Ralph Schumacher in the 2 Williams are starting right back on rows 9 and 10 in this 11-row grid. So the question is, what is going to happen at the start? Because if Mika Häkkinen can get away well from pole position and is not interfered with by the unfortunate David Coulthard who hit him last year, it could be a very, very tough race for Michael Schumacher, especially as he's got Rubens Barrichello in front of him.
Well, there's more to the front of the grid than may at first meet the eye. Of course, the 2 McLaren drivers appear to be very similar in pace. They appear also to have the fastest cars on the racetrack, very, very closely followed by Barrichello in the Ferrari. He's clearly faster than Michael Schumacher. So what will Ferrari do with Barrichello? Because they'll want to clear him out of Michael Schumacher's way. Schumacher doesn't have the pace, and therefore Ferrari will have to try something interesting to beat McLaren, because they can't beat them in a straight fight today in terms of their raw pace. Over and above that, the 2 McLaren drivers both need to win the race. So if they've got to play team tactics against Ferrari, they've also got to play selfish World Championship tactics for their own ends to try to close that gap on Michael Schumacher. So it's a fascinating struggle we're going to see at the front.
Yeah, and the interesting thing could well be a very long stint for a one-stop Michael Schumacher. I don't know that it's one stop, but I do know that after he'd done his exploratory lap, he came in, they put the Ferrari in the garage, and they filled it up with the last possible drop of petrol that they can get into it. And while they were in there, they made an adjustment to the front wing. So he's gone out, he's assessed the conditions. The conditions are extremely good at the moment, actually. The track temperature is about 19 degrees.
I think that just demonstrates that Michael has struggled to get his car working. He's even amazingly admitted that he's just not hooked up this weekend. But if you adjust a car when you're going to the grid, it never quite seems to pay off, because you don't attack those out laps, those formation laps, in anything like the same way. And you tend to get the wrong information coming back through the steering wheel. But nonetheless, Michael's still trying to fine-tune his car, and we're all very aware of just how hard he can push on every corner of every lap of a Grand Prix. So never count Michael Schumacher out. I would imagine Barrichello could well be on a lighter fuel load to try and get in there and spoil the race of those 2 McLarens and keep Michael Schumacher in the picture.
Well, whatever happens today, Michael Schumacher, even if he scores no points, and David Coulthard scores 10 points by winning the race, and it would be his 4th win this year if he did, Michael Schumacher is still going to be leading the World Championship when this race finishes, because at the present moment he's 12 points ahead of David Coulthard, and he is 18 points ahead of the man you're looking at, the rejuvenated, it would seem, Mika Häkkinen, who's been away on holiday. And surprisingly to me, he says they've readjusted the car. He's a double world champion. What can they find to do now?
Well, they've certainly been struggling to get that car working as Mika would like. I think they're having to protect their rear tyres as they all hurtle off down to turn 1 for this green light lap. This lap incidentally counts as 1 lap of the Grand Prix. And I think to protect their rear tyres, they're having to make these cars understeer a little bit more. And I suspect that that does not suit Mika Häkkinen as well as it does some drivers. And also, obviously, as I've said before, you're either giving pressure or you're taking pressure. There's no middle line on this. And Coulthard has managed for 4 races, and that's Bertie going out of the garage. He's had to get in the spare car. He had a hydraulic failure on the car that was on the grid. He was so calm and collected, wasn't he, when I was talking to him down there? And since then, they've established a hydraulic leak, so Bertie will start a plumb last.
Well, we've just been riding with Alexander Wurz, the Austrian in the Benetton, 14th on the grid. The car you saw in front of him was Nick Heidfeldt's Prost, and you've also heard that there are very strong rumours that the Prost team has been sold, allegedly to a Canadian consortium or an extremely rich individual, but I emphasise that that is not official. We'll just have to wait and see.
I think it's a fairly solid rumour though, Murray. I think that one's pretty much happening.
So, the weaving Mika Häkkinen on Bridgestone tyres, like all of them, they're all on the soft compound except for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who seems to be starting down in 15th position, partly as a result of that yesterday. The two Williams drivers, Ralf Schumacher and Button, are both on the medium, which is the harder of the two compounds, and the two Arrows drivers, Pedro de la Rosa and Jos Verstappen, both of whom went extremely well in the warm-up this morning, are also on the medium compound. And I don't think it's going to make a heck of a lot of difference unless the weather conditions change very dramatically indeed. So it is a 71-lap race. Mika Häkkinen slots into position. David Coulthard pulls across to the right-hand side of the grid. The rest of them take up their positions. And of course, Häkkinen and Coulthard at the front of the grid hope that the people behind them won't be too long getting into position so that their clutches are not affected.
Now, the right-hand side of the grid here, Murray, their right, is very much off the racing line, and I expect it to be quite dirty.
So look on the left-hand side of the grid, Michael Schumacher, and watch the lights. Now, are you ready? Then we will begin. David Coulthard rolling slightly and gets right up alongside Mika Häkkinen. It's a right-hand turn, the first one. David Coulthard could get through. No, he doesn't. Mika Häkkinen chops across the front of David Coulthard, and that's a Ferrari spinning. That's Barrichello gone through, and I think that's Michael Schumacher. It is Michael Schumacher, Jarno Trulli and Ralf Schumacher, and Michael fingering the clutch levers under the steering wheel, and consternation in the Ferrari garage.
They may well have to red flag this. They can cover it under the safety car. The medical car there that starts at the back of every Grand Prix. Yes, the safety car is out there, not red flagging it. It's the silver Mercedes estate we saw. It's the medical car. World Championship leader Michael Schumacher somehow has kept the engine going in that, and we've got wave yellows all the way around the circuit. A little SC board. Now Michael's stalled there. That's Michael pulling his car back onto the racing line. I wouldn't be at all surprised. He is going to be destroyed when he sees the safety car procedure. He will want a red flag procedure so he can have a restart.
And Giancarlo Fisichella was down there as well, out of the Benetton, but now it's Häkkinen leading, Coulthard second. Salo in the Sauber is in third position, and he started 9th on the grid. What is happening? I don't know. That's Fisichella running back, and Schumacher's car is being craned off the track, as is the Benetton. So that is 2 retirements, including the man who is leading the World Championship and will still be doing at the end of this race. But it's the worst possible situation for Michael Schumacher, out of the race with 2 McLarens in the lead, following the safety car. Mika Salo third, Pedro de la Rosa and Jos Verstappen are 4th and 5th at the 2 Arrows, and somehow or other Johnny Herbert has got up to 6th position, and he started 16th. Martin, here you go.
And Jenson Button is 7th, so in amongst all that carnage, the 2 McLarens got away beautifully. Look, Michael Schumacher comes up the inside and gets a tap from what must be the BAR of Villeneuve, and Schumacher pushed out of the first corner. Zonta, we think, actually ran into him.
It was Zonta, yeah.
Yes, and then, of course, you got a traffic jam. Michael Schumacher kept his engine going, pulled it back on to the racetrack and switched it off again. That's how it looked to me anyway, but he could not get them to bring the red flags out. They've deployed the safety car, and look, Michael Schumacher somehow, after a very poor start, gets up the inside of Barrichello, but it's going to be Zonta that tags him at the rear and puts him into a spin look. Zonta going too deep into the corner, Barrichello taking to the gravel, as did several others, and that's why people at the tail end of the field made such huge gains on that first lap.
And one of the people who suffered was Jacques Villeneuve, who was 7th on the grid. He's down to 15th position because you can see he's having to finagle his way round the side of the stationary Ferrari.
Safety car is in this lap, so the safety car, here we can see another angle, and yes indeed, it is Zonta that does not brake early enough and gives Michael Schumacher quite a firm shove. And at that point, Barrichello's hovering around the outside, wondering whether there'll be any space for him, and he has to go onto the grass, and then it's pandemonium behind them.
Well, it's always silly to make predictions, and certainly at this stage of the race, but it looks as though it has handed it on a plate to McLaren, with Häkkinen leading, Coulthard in 2nd place, Mika Salo, whose car performance, of course, doesn't hold a candle to the McLarens in front of him. But the interesting thing is that Johnny Herbert is coming up through the field now. He is in 5th position in the Jaguar. There he is. Going through is Barrichello, who's taken 2 places on this lap. Barrichello is the man to watch in the Ferrari. It's all down to him, but he's got to get past Jenson Button, he's got to get past Johnny Herbert, he's got to get past De La Rosa and Mika Salo. And I think he'll be able to do it as Jenson Button there in the Williams, which is handling much better now in the race than it did yesterday in qualifying, is right behind the Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello.
Yes, I saw Verstappen had to come in at the end of the first lap. He was up in 4th place, amazingly, after the chaos of the first lap. He must have tagged somebody and come into the pits for a new nose or something. He's now back out on the racetrack, and there are 3 cars out of this race already. Michael Schumacher, Jarno Trulli and Giancarlo Fisichella all out of the race.
And Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the other Jordan is 8th. Now let me give you the top 10 so that you can put things into context.
Hold on, Murray, let's just see this move from De La Rosa on Salo. Can he take 3rd place? He's got a good line up the inside, and yes indeed he does. De La Rosa up to 3rd.
And Barrichello right up behind Johnny Herbert. Look for the Scarlet Ferrari behind the green Jaguar. Here it is coming towards us. Häkkinen is leading, Coulthard is 2nd, Salo in the Sauber is 3rd, De La Rosa is now past Salo, and Herbert is 5th with Barrichello crowding him. 7th is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, 8th is Jenson Button, 9th incredibly is Marc Genet ahead of Alexander Wurz. And look at the 2 McLarens, they're already clearing off from Pedro De La Rosa, the Spaniard, who is proving that the Arrows is a rejuvenated car as a very unhappy Michael Schumacher stalks back to the Ferrari garage. Well, now this is going to be a McLaren demonstration at the front, no doubt about that. We're on lap 4 now out of 71. Now the question is, what is the situation going to be between Mika Häkkinen, who is leading the race and wants to make it 3 World Championships in succession, and David Coulthard, who's won 3 races this year and was starting to look as though he was getting right on top of Mika Häkkinen. We know there's no team orders between the 2 of them. We also know that the most criminal thing you can do in Formula 1 is to take off your teammate, which David Coulthard did here at this circuit. At the corner they're approaching now, turn 2 last year. So Mika Häkkinen leads. David Coulthard is the fastest man on the track. He's just put up the fastest lap we've had so far, and he's closing up on Mika Häkkinen. What's your guess?
Well, clearly they're going to be on similar fuel loads. If McLaren have decided the quickest way to run this race is at a certain strategy, then surely both drivers will be on something similar. I wonder what they may have done to cover any potential Ferrari move. And this is Barrichello taking Herbert for what will now be 5th place. So Barrichello coming through the field. I believe that Ferrari could be slightly lighter than the 2 McLarens, but he's got a major job to do now. He's going to be so far out of touch by the time he can get anywhere near some clear air. And here he is now coming up behind Salo. Something is smoking quite a lot.
It's Frenzen's Jordan, and off he goes. Maybe something's happened to the engine. I saw smoke coming out of the back of the Jordan before. That's the Mugen Honda engine spinning the wheels. He's in the gravel. He's beached it. The under tray is down in the gravel. He's not going to get out of that. That is another retirement from the Austrian Grand Prix, and it is the 4th in 6 laps.
I suspect he spun off in his own oil or fluid of some sort, because something was smoking. And look, he's turned in completely normal. Yes, there's a trail of smoke, and bang, it goes on your own rear tyres. And Frentzen just buried the throttle pedal to try and drive out of the gravel, but ended up just digging himself the beginnings of a sandcastle. And look, he's reacted extremely early. Nothing he could do about it. That is not Heinz Harald's fault.
No, he had a terrific season last year because he won in France and he won in Italy. He's having a pretty awful season this year because he's down in 9th position with only 5 points. That is Eddie Jordan.
And I wonder what could be on the track there. Fortunately for most of the drivers, they're going to get some waved yellows when they come along there. I suspect the track could be quite slippery in there. If there was enough fluid down for Frentzen to spin off on it himself, then the track's going to be quite slippery, but they appear to be getting through no problem.
Well, look at the way De La Rosa is going. All right, he's 4 seconds behind the flying McLarens, but De La Rosa now is nearly 3 seconds ahead of Mika Salo's Sauber. And Salo, remember, drove a Ferrari here last year, and it's a Ferrari that's catching him. Rubens Barrichello in 5th position. There he goes. There is Johnny Herbert. Behind Johnny Herbert is Jenson Button. So the Englishman has had an absolutely fantastic drive.
I would imagine the Ferrari-engined Sauber of Salo will be expected to move quite quickly out of Barrichello's way and release him up into that 4th place. We'll have to watch that one. De La Rosa surely is not running the same fuel load as the 2 McLarens and others.
Now, do you know who the fastest man on the track is at the moment? It is Holland's Jos Verstappen in the 2nd Arrows. On lap 6, he's just put up the fastest lap. 1 minute 14.3 compared with last year, 1 minute 12.1 by Mika Hakkinen. But of course, it's early days. They're on heavy fuel loads. You're looking now at Mika Salo's Sauber, and what an improvement there is in that car. We're used to Sauber normally doing well in the first half of the season and then starting to go a lot slower in the second half because they haven't developed the car enough. Not this year. Salo was in terrific form yesterday. He was up in 6th place in qualifying at one point. But now Rubens Barrichello is gaining, but we leave him to look at Pedro de la Rosa, 3rd position.
That was
Verstappen, sorry.
Yeah, that was Verstappen who was quick at the back end of the field. And here we go, Salo trying to defend easily, actually, because Barrichello's not that close, but Barrichello will have to come up the inside here, and Salo will have to yield as he does. And as I expected, he did not make a big deal out of letting the Ferrari past.
Well, Barrichello is now 10 seconds behind the McLarens. McLarens are lapping in about 1 minute 14, 1 minute 14.2, and Barrichello's been lapping nearly 1.5 seconds slower than them at the present moment. So he's got to put on a terrific charge to close the gap, never mind get past them, as we look at him again on this replay, taking 3rd position from Mika Salo from Finland.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure that's a move that Barrichello made in the knowledge that he wasn't going to get turned in on. So I guess it's not that surprising, but Barrichello easily through into 4th place. Now he sets about the challenge of catching De La Rosa, who's currently holding 3rd, and the 2 McLarens, there's absolutely nothing between them up at the front.
So Barrichello goes in that 3rd. He's lost another 2 seconds on the 2 McLarens. He's 12 seconds behind them. But here is Herbert. Behind Herbert, 7th position is Button. Ahead of, I can hardly believe my eyes, Marc Genet, the Spaniard in the very, very tidy Minardi, which has got a powerful engine. Into the pits comes Ralf Schumacher.
With a broken nose by the looks of it, hasn't he? A broken front wing, so Ralph's tripped over somebody, or that may be damage from the first corner that with the aerodynamic loads has taken a little bit of time to actually materialise. But let's take a quick break.
lap 11 out of 71. Ralf Schumacher has joined the retirees. He came in to have the nose cone replaced after being involved in that collision on the first lap. So he's another retirement to make 5 in all. But noticeably and significantly, we think, and I emphasise the word think, that we saw a puff of smoke coming from the lead McLaren's engine. That's Mika Häkkinen's car. It hasn't stopped him from just making the fastest lap of the race. He's still 1.5 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, who is some 8 seconds now ahead of Pedro de la Rosa. There he is alone on the circuit, but Rubens Barrichello is eating up the gap to the Arrows.
Yes, but Barrichello, now he has got in clear air, is still 1.5 seconds a lap slower than the McLarens at the front. That absolutely amazes me. Well, that he's so much slower with no traffic in front of him whatsoever, as you watch Jean Alesi trying to challenge Alexander Wurz for 9th place.
Let's try an absolutely wild one on you, because it amazes me that they're so much quicker. Might they be on a 2-stop strategy and Barrichello only on a 1-stop strategy, in which case he'd have a heavier field load? Seems unlikely, but it's possible.
I'd be surprised, but we'll have to wait to find out, won't we? But Barrichello certainly doesn't appear to have great pace. But even, Murray, the difference between 1 and 2 stops is not 1.5 seconds a lap, as Alesi ducks up the inside and can't hold the back end of the car, and Wurz immediately takes back his 9th position.
Well, we're on lap 12 now out of 71. Eddie Irvine won last year in the Ferrari as a result of a brilliant stint. He stayed out until lap 44 in the 71 lap race, and he came out of the pits still in the lead after his stop. So now we're on lap 12, Häkkinen leading Coulthard, and the gap is increasing slightly. Häkkinen is putting in a series of absolutely blistering laps. Anybody that thought that Mika Häkkinen had lost his touch, was over the hill, had lost motivation, was very clearly very wrong.
Well, Häkkinen was blistering around this track last year. He didn't win it, of course, because he had that tag with Coulthard on the first lap, but watching him come back through the field, he was sensational. And certainly there's 2 or 3 corners around this racetrack where nobody can touch Mika Häkkinen, so he's certainly got the pace that he needs. We're back on board with Barrichello coming up towards turn 3 as he's coming down from 180 down to just 70 miles an hour, and still he's 1.5 seconds per lap slower than Mika Häkkinen. And
even more interesting, I think, Martin, is that he's only a few hundredths of a second quicker than the car we're looking at now, Pedro de la Rosa, the Spaniard in the Arrows. On the last lap, it was 1 minute 14.69 and 1 minute 14.61. So there's only 8 100ths of a second improvement of Barrichello on de la Rosa, and it's going to take him a long time to catch the Arrows at this rate. But then, there again, de la Rosa might be on a 2-stop strategy.
Well, Schumacher there staying in the car. Clearly, he's had a knock in that first corner. We saw the front wing broken when we came back from the break, and now surely he's got some kind of suspension failure. I noticed on the computer that car number 23, that's Zonta, is under investigation by the stewards, and that will surely be for running into the back of Michael Schumacher in the first corner. James, what can you tell us?
Yeah, I think Zonta may be facing a stop-and-go penalty in the not-too-distant future, but I'm down at McLaren, where there really is no sign of any anxiety about the engine of Mika Häkkinen. Looking down to Ferrari, it looks to me as though Rubens was on quite a heavy fuel load, and I think Ferrari's plan today was to damage limitation really for Michael Schumacher, try and get him up to P3 and then move on from this weekend and forget all about it. But instead, Michael has an awful lot potentially of damage. McLaren, I think, are going to run quite long here as far as lap 40, possibly lap 44, and Rubens will probably do the same thing. De La Rosa, quick word on him. Remember Canada, where he did 2 stops. He looked very good in the early part of the race, but then he faded later on. I think you'll see the same thing today.
Yes, and interestingly, you could well be right on Barrichello, James. I'll come back to you on something else in a moment.
So Mika Häkkinen now increasing the pace all the time. He's inching away from David Coulthard. The gap is 2.3 seconds. But behind Barrichello, who's in 4th place, Mika Salo is 5th. Johnny Herbert is still 6th in the Jaguar, and they've only scored World Championship points in 1 race this year, and that was Eddie Irvine. Button is still in 7th position, just outside the points. He scored twice this year. 8th is Marc Genet. 9th is Alexander Wurz ahead of Jean Alesi. We've seen the battle they're having. Then it's Heidfeld, Villeneuve and Zonta, and they're coming towards us, up the track towards turn 2 now. There is Heidfeld turning in. Behind him is Villeneuve, and coasting is Jos Verstappen. Jos Verstappen coming into the pits from 17th position with his visor up. Now, the car language and the body language says this is the end of his race. Yes, he turns across the pit lane. Here is the reason. He turns out of the the bottom corner, runs very, very wide indeed, over the grass, onto the gravel.
I think looking at how that accident developed, or incident developed, he'd already got a problem before he turned into that corner. So Verstappen there, I would imagine, with some kind of front suspension failure or problem. Something I was going to say earlier on before I got distracted is that I'd like at some point when we see a replay of the start, Barrichello got away so much better than Michael and then seemed to have to get out of it and let Michael through up into the first corner. Michael's miles behind him off the line, and I think that could confirm what James was saying about Barrichello actually, yes, being on the fuller fuel load and trying to release Michael. It didn't pay off because Zonta arrived much too hot.
Well, Alex Wurz waves a furious fist at Jean Alesi, who's just moved up into 9th position. There he is, diving through on the inside of the Benetton, who runs wide again and lets Alesi get away. Alesi is an absolutely storming driver. He's driven in more Grand Prix than anybody else who is currently racing. I think this is his 177th Grand Prix, and he's lost none of his brio, none of his enthusiasm, none of his fire. That's Pat Simmons, the technical chief of Benetton, on the left, with Gordon Message, and the highest man that they've got in the field at the present moment is Alex Wurz, who is in 9th position, because Fisichella, of course, has long gone out of the race.
So we've got 2 cars have been notified they're on a stop-go penalty. It's Dinitz and Zonta. So Zonta, we're sure it's because he ran into Michael Schumacher. Here it comes up on the screen. Dinitz, I don't know, maybe he had a jump start or something like that. So, but look at this, Murray. Mika Hakkinen is now down in the mid 1-minute 12s, and Barrichello still buried in the 1-minute 14s.
Yeah, fastest lap last year was Mika Hakkinen, 1 minute 12.1, so he's half a second off that at the present moment. At this 17th lap out of 71, so it's McLaren's all clear and a long way, 17 seconds now ahead of the 3rd place De La Rosa at the front of the field. But there is a battle going on behind, and in the pits again, out of the pits, I'm sorry, rejoining the race goes Ralf Schumacher. Now, he's several laps down now, and Villeneuve, the man who is holding up all sorts of movements in Formula One for next year, whilst he makes his mind up about whether he's going to drive for BAR, whether he's going to drive for Benetton, or what he's going to do, continues to unsuccessfully chase Nick Heidfeld, the Formula 3000 champion of 1999. Heidfeld in the Prost, and Alain Prost is very much here under a terrific amount of pressure as a result of these rumours that he's sold his team. And Heidfeld is in 11th position at the moment.
That's Dinitz in for his stop-go, so he has to go to his own box, and Zontarin's ahead of him too, look. They have to go to their own area, and their own mechanics have to release them after 10 seconds of being completely stationary. Plus the time they lose getting in and out of the pits, so 25 to 30 seconds as an absolute minimum is the cost of this strangely named 10-second.
Yeah, I feel quite sorry for Zonta, actually, because he drove his heart out to get into the 6th position on the grid, which is the highest he's ever been. His position in the BAR team is debatable next year, and he undoubtedly got overexcited at the start and probably caused Michael Schumacher to retire from the Austrian Grand Prix. Now, there's a lot of people been saying that, of course, the best thing that could possibly happen here today is for the McLarens to finish 1st and 2nd, as they did in France, because that would close the championship right up. Because at the present moment, the McLaren team is on a potential 16 World Championship points in the Constructors' contest, which would put them ahead of Ferrari, even if Rubens Barrichello finished in 3rd position, and he's in 4th place at the present moment.
ironically for Hakkinen, those 2 stop-and-go penalties of the other drivers played beautifully into his hands, because they exited the pits right between himself and Coulthard in 2nd place. His lead is now 4.3 seconds. And here's the restart, and look at the white car just nerfing the Ferrari into a spin, and they're already busy having an accident of their own behind anyway. And at that point, truly just runs into Schumacher. Probably looked easy for us, but I would imagine there was a cloud of tyre rubber when he arrived and just nerfed into Schumacher as a secondary incident. And Michael Schumacher saying, nothing I could do, boss. Nothing I could do.
I was sitting there and I got this colossal bang in the back, and who was it? It was that bloke Zonta. I'm going to have a word with him after the race. It's cost me 10 World Championship points. It might have cost me the World Championship. I'll only be 2 points ahead at the end of this race if David Coulthard does well. And at the present moment, on lap 20 out of 71, Mika Hakkinen is striding away now from David Coulthard. 5.6 seconds is the gap. De La Rosa is 23 seconds behind the leader, still there magnificently in the arrows. Rubens Barrichello is only catching De La Rosa very slowly indeed in the Ferrari. He's 4th. Mika Salo in the Sauber is 5th. Johnny Herbert is in 6th place. So that's an unusual front. And it's time now for us to leave the A1 ring, but of course we'll be back. David Coulthard surges inside Ricardo Zonta's BAR to lap the Brazilian, and of course Mika Hakkinen has already done so.
Yes, as I said, those 2 cars that finished their stop-go penalties fed in front of Coulthard but behind Hakkinen, and it's cost Coulthard over 4 seconds trying to get through them. So Hakkinen now with a 7.2 second lead as he comes over the line. It's going to be even more this time around. 8.5 seconds as he negotiated the BAR of Zonta. So Hakkinen now really getting off into the distance. Not because he was better through the traffic, because he didn't have to put up with that traffic. De La Rosa now 26 seconds behind Mika Hakkinen. Louise, what can you tell us?
Well, I'll get it from the horse's mouth. I'm here with Michael Schumacher. Michael punted out at the race at the first corner through no fault of your own. Has to be your worst possible nightmare.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the parts which makes you disappointed, no doubt. But you know, that's racing. It sometimes can happen. I don't think Ricardo is the person who does anything like that purposely. He just overestimated his abilities, and the corner speed has happened to me in the past. I mean, I have done a mistake, and I guess he will admit he did one. So I will have a quiet word with him next time, and we'll see.
Do you feel that the race should have been red flagged?
I mean, from my position, yes, definitely.
But realistically speaking, there was no reason for it.
I mean, the marshals did a very good job, unfortunately, to clear the circuit. So obviously you have the safety car, and it's the same for everyone. They use the safety car under normal circumstance like this. It's the same for everyone. It hurts, obviously, if you feel a race could be stopped, and you could jump in the other car and you have a second go. But, well, that's the way it goes.
Bad luck. Thanks for talking to us.
You know, about half of Britain can't stand Michael Schumacher. The other half either loves him or is ambivalent about him. I must say, I think he's an absolutely super bloke, and I admired him there for his phlegmatic attitude, his cheerful attitude, to the fact that he's now in a situation potentially where he could only just be leading the World Championship. But I suppose when you've driven in as many Grand Prix as he has, and this was his 136th, which he started, and you've been on the podium for well over half of those races, you just learn to take it that way.
Yes, he was, I have to say, remarkably calm about it, though, and I think it was a good PR front there from Michael, and I think he was very correct in what he was saying. And I do remember him running to a lot of people on the first lap in the past, but it must be incredibly frustrating for him, but incredibly sportsmanlike all at the same time. But, you know, get back to the pits, jump, scream, shout, thump somebody, all you like. It won't put your race car back on the track.
Absolutely. Now, remember what James was saying about De La Rosa when I was hypothesising that he's on a two-stop strategy. De La Rosa has actually increased his lead over Rubens Barrichello, who, as I say it, takes some of it back. You're looking at the only Ferrari in the race at the present moment, with Brazil's Rubens Barrichello, who is in 4th place in the World Championship at the present moment, but has yet to win a race, either for Jordan or for Stewart or for Ferrari, which is his 3rd team. And he is inching up on De La Rosa, but if De La Rosa is on a two-stop strategy and Barrichello's on a one-stop strategy, he will go up to 3rd place pretty soon.
Yes, when Michael looks at the computer screen, which I'd imagine would be the first thing he did when he got back to the pits, he'd be pleased to see that Häkkinen is stopping Coulthard at the moment, getting maximum points. Coulthard, of course, 6 points nearer to Michael in the championship, but he'll be very saddened to see that Barrichello is only literally inching up on De La Rosa in 3rd place, some 36 seconds behind the leader now, his 4th place man Barrichello. Michael will be amazed to see how slow he is, and the fact that Barrichello cannot get up there and spoil McLaren's day. It's now all down to making sure there's no driver errors and no mechanical failures. I've seen out of the window a pit board that says revs and shift, and they're telling the two McLaren drivers shift a little bit earlier, use a few less revs, and hopefully, you know, just even if you just knock 300-400 revs off the top end, it saves the engine enormously. The stresses are just increased dramatically as they get over 17,000 RPM, for example. James, what can you tell us?
Well, it's interesting. I've just been looking at those pit boards being prepared. I see shifts and revs, and I wonder if in the minds of Häkkinen and Coulthard that also means don't race each other, guys. What do you think, Martin?
Well, I think that Coulthard will be trying as hard as he can to race, but Häkkinen certainly punished him while Coulthard was making his way through that traffic. Häkkinen put on, despite getting a board saying slow down a bit, some astonishing laps, and you're seeing one for yourself now, a 1:11.8. That is amazingly fast, and some 1.2 seconds faster than Coulthard. This is a virtuoso performance we're seeing here from Mika Häkkinen, and he's scampering down there. He doesn't want Coulthard to have to make a decision whether to race him or not. He wants to get far enough into the distance.
Yeah, and he's 0.3 of a second faster than his own fastest lap last year. Zonta's having a pretty lurid race. You just saw him nerfing Mazzacane, who is battling with him on the track. Zonta is down in 15th position. There are 16 cars left out of the 22 that started. Fisichella out at the beginning with Trulli and Michael Schumacher. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, presumably as a result of his engine locking up, which spun him off the circuit. Jos Verstappen we've seen come into the pits and into the garage. Ralf Schumacher's been into the pits for a long time. He's 8 laps behind now. The leaders are on lap 27 out of 71. Here is Mika Häkkinen. You can see the gap as behind him there is Luciano Berti, who is now in 12th position. He's been lapped, of course, but he's running well in the Jaguar. And Johnny Herbert, his teammate, the team leader today, with Eddie Irvine still, in, as far as I know, in hospital. And if you are Eddie, and if you are watching, get well soon. And Johnny Herbert is still in 6th position. Here is the battle between Mazzacane in the yellow Minardi and Ralf Schumacher closing up on him in the Williams BMW.
The only problem Schumacher's got is he's 7 laps down, Murray, because if you remember, he came into the pits for a new wing, and then he came in for what I'd imagine would be a new wishbone on the left front, so of suspension. So Ralph was really out there having a test day, really, trying the car and checking out for if they can stress anything and find some reliability issues, because he certainly isn't going to score any points today.
Well, the question in my mind now is, when is De La Rosa going to come in? If he is on a 2-stop strategy, he's in 3rd position at the moment. He's on lap 27. No, he's on lap 28 now, and he's well past the hypothetical 1st stop, which would be round about lap 23. If he's on a 2-stop strategy, he will have to come in pretty soon. Barrichello is now rapidly closing the gap to the arrows in front of him. Barrichello in the Ferrari in 3rd position. There is Mika Häkkinen slicing his way through the field. He's coming up towards us now, and just in front of him on the track is Jacques Villeneuve in 11th position on the BAR. And that is Mika Häkkinen's next target, because he's already lapped Mazzacane, Zonta, Pedro Diniz, Alesi, Luciano Berti. He's coming up to there is Jacques Villeneuve, the world champion of 1997, 11th position BAR. Thundering up behind him in the McLaren to lap him is Mika Häkkinen.
James is down at McLaren.
Yes, well, Mika Häkkinen isn't taking the message. He's about to get a pit board now that says easy. We've seen it once or twice in the past, and Mika Häkkinen is so desperate to prove himself. He was so enormously relieved when he stuck it on pole yesterday. He said to me, it's so good to smile again. It's been such a tough time for me. And he's out there giving a demonstration of how fast he is, but the McLaren team don't like it. They want him to back off, Martin.
It doesn't surprise me at all. That'll be the 2nd time of asking. Clearly they asked both their drivers. Coulthard slowed down. Häkkinen now pulling out a 14-second lead, 14.4 now. And I noticed really Coulthard started to put the hammer down again. He's having to get right back into the 12s. Otherwise, Häkkinen's just disappearing into the distance. And now Häkkinen somewhere amongst the back markers. It's a 72-second lap. And Häkkinen is now 42 seconds ahead already of Barrichello in 4th place, so he's going to lap that Ferrari this afternoon.
Yeah, and 14 seconds ahead of David Coulthard as he comes up through the tail enders. You've just seen him go past Villeneuve after the blue flags were waved at the Canadian. Now he's closing up on Nick Heidfeldt's blue Prost, which is in 10th position. Just look at the way that Mika Häkkinen is going. He's just diving past left, right and centre. The next target is Alexander Wurz in front of him in the Benetton with the Supertech engine. And Mika Häkkinen comes through round turn 8, the last turn on this corner, crosses the line, and he's up behind. There is Wurz in the Benetton, the only one left in the race. And he's coming up to turn 2 now. It's climbing all the way up here, and he's doing about 180 miles an hour before he backs off to about 45, 50 miles an hour for the apex. There's Wurz, there is Häkkinen.
There's been such a lot of garbage written about Häkkinen this week, about he's got a baby on the way, therefore he's lost it. It's as if his mother, father, brother, sister's wife and other people around him didn't care. It didn't matter at all. It's only the fact there's a baby on the way. Complete load of rubbish. You know the risks, you drive accordingly. You've also got yourself to think about. There's no way that having a baby makes you just suddenly go off the boil in terms of being a Grand Prix driver. But everybody seems to need to analyse these drivers. They ask them questions and they're given answers, and if they're not the answers they want to hear from the drivers, they then start dissecting that driver's personality.
Yes.
Complete load of rubbish.
Well, he's short shifting now if he's obeyed instructions, and there's some doubt about that. But he is lapping about 0.6 of a second slower than his own fastest lap so far in this race, which was done on lap 27, and that was 1 minute 11.8. He's lapping in about 1 minute 12.6 now. He's on lap 32 of 71, so getting on towards half distance. Up to turn 2 they come. Jaguar, Williams. The Jaguar is Johnny Herbert. The Williams is Jenson Button. And there is Mika Häkkinen now. He has passed Wurz. I'm just checking on whether he's... No, Genet is the next one. I've been talking a little about this Minardi because Marc Genet is in a magnificent 8th position, the Spaniard. There's 2 Spaniards in Formula 1 now. Pedro de la Rosa is the other one. And that car, that yellow Minardi, if it had a lighter engine, the Ford engine that it's got is pretty powerful. It's not far off most of the others, but it's very heavy. And Gustav Brunner, the Austrian engineer who has worked for so many Formula 1 people, has produced a great motor car. And Marc Genet is making the most of it. He's hanging on to Jenson Button. There it was, Rubens Barrichello. And that was that dust coming back from behind the arrows?
I fear it's a little bit more than dust. Certainly De La Rosa's gone a lot further into this race than I thought he would in terms of fuel, so maybe eating my words on that one. But yes, it's beginning to breathe rather heavily, isn't it? That is not going to make the end of the race, Murray.
No, it's a super... So, oh no, my goodness, it isn't. No, it's so... Whoa, that's it. Bang, bang, bang. Out goes De La Rosa. That's a replay. So Rubens Barrichello will be moving up into 3rd position with the disappearance of the arrows after a superb drive.
I don't think
he's still running.
Yeah, it's not disappeared just yet. That was a replay of it smoking earlier on. Now he's coming in for, let me look out of the window, it's a routine stop. They're expecting him. So he may have to, he's certainly not going to be able to get to the end of the race without stopping again, I would have thought, from here. But De La Rosa in, but surely that engine is not going to see the checkered flag.
6 laps into the window, it looks to me as though he's going to turn in. Very leisurely stop, no tyres, you see. Looking at the back of the car, no, this is the end of De La Rosa's effective race, whether he rejoins or not. So Barrichello goes up into 4th position, 3rd position, Mika Salo goes up into 4th, Johnny Herbert is 5th, Jenson Button for the 4th time in his career is in the points. He's finished in the points twice, and he's in the points again. And Marc Genet is in 7th place, and now Mika Häkkinen has lapped everybody up to 7th position. Oh, and as I say it, he passes Jenson Button. Well, you're right, Martin. If Häkkinen goes on the way he's going now, he's going to lap everybody before the end of this race, except his teammate David Coulthard.
Yeah, it's a brilliant performance from Häkkinen. He's certainly not backing off at all. It's quite a good scrap going on here. You've got Salo rather, 9/10 behind him is Herbert, and now just a little bit more is Jenson Button. He was 1.2, but he had to yield to the McLaren of Häkkinen that was lapping him. But a good little scrap there for what will now become 4th, 5th and 6th. That's Salo, Herbert and Button.
Well, the highest that a Jaguar has finished in a Grand Prix was Eddie Irvine's 4th place at Monaco. Johnny Herbert is in 5th position, and Louise has got information about De La Rosa of Arrows.
Yeah, that's right, Murray. A lot of sad faces down here at Arrows, as you can imagine. De La Rosa was on a one-stop strategy, so he was keeping up with those cars on pure pace. Nothing to do with a fuel-stop strategy, but unfortunately his gearbox has let him down. Exactly the same reason as his teammate Verstappen went out.
As we watch Mika Häkkinen closing up on Johnny Herbert and surging past the Jaguar, which is in 5th position still. So there's just Salo, Barrichello and Coulthard ahead of Mika Häkkinen for him to lap. And Salo is lapping in about 1 minute 14.5. Mika Häkkinen is lapping 1.5 seconds faster than the Sauber.
Herbert was smart there. Clearly he's got to let the McLaren pass. The flags were already waving at him, blue flags, but he chose to do it in a place where they both lost the minimum amount of time, especially himself. So Johnny, the old hand, able to release Häkkinen without giving away too much in his pursuit of Mika Salo. But a little, as you can see, but now Salo has got the same problem, but he can let Häkkinen get through as they break up into turn one. Salo will then just blend out the throttle a little bit down this straight and let Häkkinen have the inside line. That way Salo stays on the racing line and gets good drive out of the corner because his tyres are clean, and that keeps his gap back to Herbert.
Yeah, he needed to do that to prevent Johnny Herbert closing up on him. And I was saying, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Jaguar because they've had so many hard times this season, as we see a replay of Häkkinen going past the Ferrari engine. So it's a Petronas engine officially, but it's a Ferrari engine in fact of Mika Salo Sauber. And you're watching a really brilliant race, brilliant drive by Mika Häkkinen, who certainly lost none of his form. But I was talking about Jaguar. They've had so much hard luck, with 3 retirements for Eddie Irvine, with 4 retirements from the first 9 races for Johnny Herbert, only 1 points finish. And people don't realise, they say it was the Stewart team last year and Johnny Herbert won for Stewart at the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Why can't Jaguar take it on from there? Well, it's virtually a completely new team in terms of personnel at the top, and the infrastructure is largely changed as well. And it's a very, very difficult thing as we ride with Rubens Barrichello. Now he is closing a little, but only at about 0.2 of a second a lap on David Coulthard, who is second, and he is 32 seconds behind Coulthard, and he is 47 seconds behind Häkkinen.
Yes, that's the first time in 35 laps that Barrichello's been faster than either of the 2 McLarens. As it happens, he was faster than both of them. But remember, they are going through the traffic. They're going through the back markers. So Häkkinen leads by 15.4 seconds from Coulthard. Barrichello 46.9 seconds behind Häkkinen. Salo, Herbert and Button in close formation to round out the top 6. We'll be back very shortly.
Häkkinen has been in for his fuel stop and has lost the lead to David Coulthard. Here is a replay of Mika Häkkinen coming into the pit lane. And at the time he came in, he was about 18 seconds ahead of David Coulthard.
Yeah, it's looked a pretty solid stop. I thought they were struggling a bit with the vent hose on his left-hand side of the car, but a reasonable stop considering it's a one-stopper. Nothing too special, but Häkkinen away reasonably cleanly. And there you see Coulthard storming through to take the lead, but of course he has yet to stop. So Coulthard now leads from Häkkinen, and back now with the live pictures, and they're showing P. They're going to have to put that to P2, of course. 32 laps to go.
And Rubens Barrichello is now on a charge. He's doing the fastest lap of the race as I talk to you. He's still to come through and complete it. He's done a lightning first section this lap. It's split up into 3 sectors for timing purposes. The first sector ends just before turn 2. He's gone through the second sector faster than he has been before. But the gap between him and Mika Häkkinen is still some 30 seconds. Coming down now, it's 20 seconds as a result of Häkkinen's stop, and Barrichello has yet to stop himself.
Yes, Barrichello's done his fastest lap of the race rather than the fastest of a 1:12.5, but that's just normal sort of cruising around McLaren pace at the moment when they were trying to just save the engine a little bit. So now Coulthard, if he's got a few extra laps of fuel in this car, probably explains why he wasn't able to stay with Häkkinen earlier on. The traffic certainly hasn't fallen well, and he hasn't taken it as well as Häkkinen, but Häkkinen quite clearly in any event has more speed around this racetrack. But Coulthard leads the race, and he's got low fuel. He must be doing for fuel in the next few laps, and he should be able to pull some of that deficit back that he had on Mika Häkkinen.
So the order on lap 41 with 30 laps to go in this 71-lap race. David Coulthard leading Mika Häkkinen now by 10 seconds. Rubens Barrichello is 30 seconds behind Coulthard, but has yet to stop. Mika Salo in the Sauber is 4th. Johnny Herbert still going strong in the Jaguar. 5th position, 2 potential points. Jenson Button in the Williams, who started down in 18th position, is now up into 6th position and in the points again. Marc Genet is 7th, Villeneuve is 8th. He's got ahead of Heidfeld, who has come in for his pit stop down to 9th. Wurz is 10th, and Bertie in the second Jaguar is still running in 11th place.
Yes, and if you didn't see the start of this Grand Prix, there was an accident in the first corner that immediately eliminated Michael Schumacher, Jarno Trulli and Giancarlo Fisichella. Others had problems, had to stop for wings and little bits of suspension, notably Ralf Schumacher. So then allowed the tail enders really to find their way through, thread their way through the carnage in the middle of the pack. And now look, Coulthard has to come in for his one and only stop of the afternoon. And that's why you have Herbert, Button and Genet, for example, in 7th place right up the field, because they were able to leapfrog. And instead of a red flag scenario, I think wisely they just chose to use the safety car, because the marshals cleared the racetrack with great efficiency.
Yeah, they did a great job. Charlie Whiting is the race director. He's the man who has to make these ticklish decisions, and he invariably gets it right. An enormously experienced chap, ex-chief mechanic at Brabham, and he's had various other jobs. And now Mika Häkkinen is going round with David Coulthard coming in. Now Häkkinen took 11.8 seconds on his stop. David Coulthard is now 11.6 seconds ahead of Häkkinen in the race on lap 42. Häkkinen will retake the lead, and it will run through that way to the end of the race unless, and it's a big unless, there is a problem for one of the 2 McLarens. And Rubens Barrichello is still 3rd. In comes Coulthard.
Yes, current leader then, Coulthard in for his stop of the afternoon, James.
A very mellow atmosphere down here in this McLaren garage. They can't believe their luck, frankly, guys. They are absolutely cruising this race. The only question mark is, what did David Coulthard believe he was about? Did he think he was going to have a chance to race Mika Häkkinen? But he's taking on about 68 kilos of fuel now. Should be stationed for about 10 seconds. Very smooth, very nice, very McLaren.
Well, he gained 2 seconds on Mika Häkkinen on the pit stop there, but it's not going to be enough. He's coming out at the mandatory 80 kilometres an hour.
One thing he has got to do is just mind this nasty little right-hander onto the track, no problem at all. That's caught a few drivers out over the years coming around there, but he's up and running. But once again, and
the 2 Ligiers. Sorry, the 2 Prosts. There's the pressure of the occasion. That's a Lacey and Heidfeld. I don't know what's happened, but it's the... I mean, poor Alain Prost, as if he hadn't got enough pressure on him. In this vital race, these 2 drivers appear to have come together. And we saw in the last race Alain Prost nearly throwing a fit in the pit lane as the gantry camera caught him. Here it is.
That's too late. Whoever was coming in second there, which is Jean Alesi, was coming in too late. That one has got to be firmly on Alesi's shoulders, and he's still trying to drive away with one wheel hanging off. But no, it's just too late in there. There's no way he could have expected Heidfeld to yield in that situation, and he was nowhere near close enough.
Now, here is a problem. Rubens Barrichello was coming up behind that lot. Look at those shards of carbon fibre being smashed off the car. Look at them all over the circuit. Rubens Barrichello will have had to run through that lot, and it is not impossible that he could get a puncture as a result of it. And that would be the cruelest possible blow for Ferrari, who've already had bitter luck here. Jean Alesi riding in on the back of the bike to face the wrath of Alain Prost. And with De La Rosa now is Louise Goodman.
That's right, Murray. The McLaren's running in first and second, completed their pit stops, but the man who was running third unfortunately stood here with me in the paddock. Pedro, can you get any consolation from the fact that the car was running so strongly before you went out?
No, it's not enough. Just not finishing another race. It's not good, especially I would have loved to finish on a good position for the team, and especially because everyone was thinking that we were on a two-stop strategy and we were on a one, like all the others. And it was a shame, really, because we had some transmission problems. But anyway, this is motor racing, and the unfortunate thing is that it happened when we were going so well, and I was pushing very, very hard because the first pit stop was very close, and we knew some people were going to stop a little bit later. But anyway, we'll have to forget it, go to sleep, and tomorrow will be another day.
Thanks, Pedro.
Another very resigned and phlegmatic De La Rosa. That's his 8th retirement from 10 races. But very interesting that they were on a one-stop strategy. Bodes well for Arrows.
It certainly does. I certainly owe him an apology because the car had such speed. And Tom Walkinshaw even told me this morning they were on one stop, but I still didn't believe him because they had such amazing speed in the warm-up this morning. I thought, like Canada, they were running the car a little bit light, but all credit to them, they had some genuine speed around this circuit.
Now, that was Rubens Barrichello as we look at his boss, Ross Brawn, and we now look at the McLaren turning inside the Minardi. Rubens Barrichello is only a couple of seconds now behind David Coulthard as a result of Coulthard's stop. And Barrichello on lap 45 has yet to come in, so it's a bit of a false picture. Barrichello is with the second place McLaren of David Coulthard on the track, but effectively he's still way back in third position. Johnny Herbert up to 4th place.
Yes, because Salo pitted from what was 4th place, and Herbert and Button have yet to stop, and I think this also explains why, I mean, Barrichello going so far into the race, he was very heavy off the line, could also again explain why Michael was able to have such a poor start, yet still be ahead of Barrichello into that first corner. You're on board now of the Ferrari as you head up towards turn 2, a car in front of us. Clearly the car, in fact, no, that's a Coulthard, second place man Coulthard, who has already made his stop, of course, and Barrichello surely has to pit anytime soon. But if the Ferrari can go this far on a tank of gas, that bodes very well for those circuits like Monza, for example, where they just need to run as far as they can. But we see in the pit lane, Ferrari mechanics are out, Jaguar mechanics are out. That must be for Johnny Herbert. Bertie's already been in. So now, there we go, Barrichello now must stop.
And Jenson Button is up into 4th place as Johnny Herbert comes into the pits. Jenson Button is up from 18th at the start to 4th in the race on lap 47 out of 71. A brilliant drive. David Coulthard there second, being crowded by Rubens Barrichello, who is about to come in for his one and only stop in this year's Austrian Grand Prix. There are the Ferrari mechanics. James is there.
It's been very disappointing down here in the Ferrari garage. I think they've just been really struggling for grip. The car has been sliding through the corners, particularly the first 2 corners. Really a bad day. Rubens has been doing mid-112s, even in the run-up to his pit stop. And, well, not a good day for Ferrari, I'm afraid.
So out of the pit lane, Gently Motors. He has to, he can't go any faster than this. There is a speed limit for safety reasons. Gently Motors, Rubens Barrichello, who of course has now got a long gap between himself and David Coulthard, who motored serenely on as the Ferrari came into the pit lane. Barrichello accelerates away. He's Ferrari's sole hope in this race for 4 World Championship points compared with the 16 McLaren will get.
And look at Button. He's now done a 1:12.9, his fastest lap of the race by some margin. He's been told to sprint. Remember, he was tucked up behind Herbert and Salo. There was a few tenths between the three of them, and now his pit stop is imminent. I can see the mechanics out in the pit lane. Ralf Schumacher surely it will not be pitting again, so it must be for Jenson Button this time around. He's been told to push. He might, just might, leapfrog Salo and Herbert if he can have a good in-lap.
Now, unless I'm very much mistaken, Jenson Button has had a very encouraging discussion with Frank Williams here in Austria. It's not necessarily so encouraging that it'll mean he'll stay with Williams next year instead of Montoya, the Colombian, who's expected to take his place. But Frank Williams and Patrick Head are delighted with the Englishman. They've got him under long-term contract. There's no doubt that if Button is not with Williams next year, he will be with somebody else. And into the pit lane he comes from 4th position. Now, he's got Jacques Villeneuve at the present moment, just a few seconds behind him. Villeneuve goes through and takes 4th position.
Villeneuve yet to stop, but here comes Button into his garage now. Just gently runs into the front jack. That's exactly what he should be doing. He's right on his mark, so the mechanics can easily manoeuvre around the car, moving the wheel. The fuel stop was short, of course, not so far to run to the end of the race. So a great stop for Button. That could just put him into a net 4th place, Murray.
Yeah, but there goes Wurz through. Now, Wurz was a lap adrift on Hakkinen, and I reckon that he's moved up into 5th position, and Jenson Button will therefore be down to 6th if I'm right.
Yes, but Wurz hasn't stopped yet, and nor has Jacques Villeneuve. But let's do a current 1 to 6 until it shakes out after all the pit stops. Mika Hakkinen leads David Coulthard by 17.1 seconds. A further 26 seconds down the road is Rubens Barrichello, and then it's Villeneuve, Jenson Button, who we've seen just pit stop, so the computer hasn't caught up with that yet, then Alexander Wurz, Salo and Herbert, who have stopped, are down in 7th and 8th at the moment. Another lap from now, we should be getting the true picture.
Well, if Hakkinen wins this race, he's still going to be 8 World Championship points behind Michael Schumacher as they go to the 11th race in Germany at Hockenheim in 2 weeks' time, and we go to a break. 71 at Austria's A1 ring. 13 of the 22 cars that started are still circulating, and Mazzacane in the Minardi is 2 laps behind race leader Mika Hakkinen as we ride with Rubens Barrichello, who is 25 seconds behind second place David Coulthard. It is a McLaren whitewash. They're on a potential 16 Constructors' Championship points if they finish where they are now, and there is no doubt that McLaren will take the lead in the Constructors' Championship on race 10 out of 17.
Let me give you a 1 to 10. It's quite interesting. At the front, it's fairly predictable. It's Hakkinen now 18 seconds ahead of Coulthard, who's a further 25 seconds ahead of the man you're on board with now. And then Villeneuve had a great stop and managed somehow to get out in front of Jenson Button, who did leapfrog Salo and Herbert with those 2 or 3 great laps he did before his pit stop. So all changed there. Villeneuve, some kind of stunning in-lap and pit stop, has got him up into 4th place. Louise is with Lacey.
I am indeed. Jean, both Prost drivers out in the same accident. Tell us your side of the story.
We were in 2 different strategies. Nick went out just in front of me with the full tank. I had the competitive car at this moment of the race, so I tried already once to overtake him. We touched each other already once. When I passed through the pits, I make a sign with my hand, and the lap after it, we had a definitive accident. So I want to understand exactly now with Alain why or if they say something to him before.
So you feel that the team should have told Heidfeld to let you pass?
Of course, especially in this situation, everything is clear. I mean, they know the strategy very well, and I overtook a car at this place at the beginning of the race, so I knew it was possible to pass, but you need also to I mean, okay, we had this accident, we have to speak now together to understand what's happened.
Thanks, Sean.
The problem is Heidfeld had no idea that he was coming up, so if there was any kind of instruction, it hadn't made it to Heidfeld's ears because he simply turned in as per normal without an inkling that his teammate was slithering up the inside of him with a do-or-die effort. But I can understand John's point. If they're on different strategies, surely the team should have been playing a role in that one. But I'd like to cut back to the Villeneuve, Button, Salo and Herbert situation because they're reasonably, as you see, what must be Salo, who's currently in 6th place, and Johnny Herbert there chasing him in the Jaguar.
Yeah, Sala actually lapping a bit quicker than Jenson Button at the moment, but he's some 4 seconds behind him. That at P6 is the sign to Mika Salo. There he is, and behind him in 7th place, the green Jaguar of Johnny Herbert. You remember he was in the points, he's just out of them at the present moment, but Jenson Button in the Williams BMW is very much still in them. Now Villeneuve, who got past him in the pit stop, is pulling away from the Williams BMW. I was going to say that Jacques Villeneuve would be an extraordinarily difficult bloke to get past, particularly by somebody who's as comparatively inexperienced as Button is, fine a season as he is having. Well, Villeneuve is pulling away. He's 2 seconds ahead of Button now, and he's lapping, of course, slower than Rubens Barrichello. Only 3 people, Hakkinen, Coulthard and Barrichello, are on the same lap, and Mika Hakkinen is lapping about 0.4 of a second slower than Rubens Barrichello at the moment.
Some kind of stellar drive from Villeneuve actually up there into 4th place. Remember in that melee in the first corner, he really did lose out quite badly. I can't remember, I think he was 14th or 15th when they took the safety car away, so he's made his way through the field. Others have had problems, and then a stellar pit stop, and Villeneuve in a very strong 4th place, and Button, we think, has gone off. Button has run off onto the grass as he goes wide again, so Button's made a mistake in the last corner.
Yeah, and he's got Salo right behind him. There is Button in 5th position, Salo in the Sauber right behind him as they come up to turn 2, and that's where the Schumacher brothers had a gigantic battle respectively in the Ferrari and the Jordan a couple of years ago, and Johnny Herbert is right up behind Salo. So you're looking at the battle for 5th, led by Button, with Salo sandwiched between the 2 British drivers, Button and Herbert in the Jaguar. and there's everything to gain for all of them. Button wants those 2 points, so does Sarlo, and especially Johnny Herbert, to give him the first points for Jaguar and the team's second World Championship points this year.
Yes, Johnny Herbert in the worst possible place to finish a Grand Prix, and that's 7th, but he hasn't finished yet. And certainly Button, we think he ran, we're hoping to see a replay, he ran very, very wide in the last corner. The Williams pit are ready with a new nose, but I would imagine they'll only bring him in if he has a problem, which he doesn't appear to have at the moment. I would imagine that's a precautionary situation with regarding to the Williams pits. With so relatively few laps to go, it would be crazy to bring him in, and I can't see anything wrong with the nose. I think his team will be there ready just in case.
Well, disappointing for McLaren and their sponsors that we're not seeing more of Hakkinen and Coulthard, but it's a very wise decision by the television director, because this is the excitement. The McLarens are way out on their own, because there is the nose cone ready for Jenson Button's car, number 10. There is Jenson Button's car, number 10. Doesn't look to be suffering too much at the present moment from as far as I can see. And that is Jacques Villeneuve running wide, and that's what caused Button's problem, as he was tucked up right behind the BAR as they came round turn 8. That's about a 135-mile-an-hour corner. He just dodges the tyre wall and keeps on the track.
I can see why they're ready. There were bits and pieces falling off the nose, but it was mostly the wing end plates. I don't think it was anything critical or structural, but you do have to be careful, because if your front wing fails and tucks under your front tyres, you can have a pretty serious accident, as Sarlo once again moves within half a second of Jenson Button. But if that wing was going to fail, I would, big time, it would have happened by now. At the 180 miles an hour, yes, they're packing the kit away. 180 miles an hour, the download on that is several hundred kilos, so if it was going to break, it would have happened soon.
Yeah, this is only Button's 10th Grand Prix. He only had one season of Formula 3 behind him. He was 3rd in the British Championship last year and was 2nd at Macau. He won the Formula Ford Championship the year before. So this is only his 3rd season of single-seaters and only his 10th race in Formula 1. And he's undoubtedly been the find of the season, and one of the best for a very long time. And that's endorsed by Frank Williams as Mika Hakkinen goes through to complete his 57th lap. 71 laps in the race. He's coming up behind Jacques Villeneuve, who is in 4th place. And there is David Coulthard. Sorry, David Coulthard in 2nd position, and Villeneuve, of course, has long since been lapped by Mika Hakkinen. Now he's lapped by David Coulthard. The gap between the two McLarens is just under 16 seconds.
Yes, the McLarens have now dropped about 1.5 seconds per lap to match the pace of Barrichello. They've got enough of a margin. They don't have to push. Hakkinen, having built himself a margin over Coulthard, is now paying attention to his pit board, telling him to ease it a little bit. He's now dropped back into the 13s and 14s, as has Coulthard, and that was Barrichello's pace anyway.
Yeah, Barrichello, as we watch Jacques Villeneuve in 4th position, he's been lapped. Barrichello's having by far the best season he has ever had. Unlike Eddie Irvine in the last 4 seasons or so, he theoretically does not have to defer to Michael Schumacher, and partly as a result of that, he's had 3 second places, he's been 3rd a couple of times, he's been in the points in 2 4th places, and he's only had a couple of retirements as Barrichello in Brazil and at the British Grand Prix, and as a result of all that, he's in 4th position in the World Championship, and he's going to, of course, increase his points positioning here in Austria with another 4 World Championship points if he stays where he is. And we're looking at Mazzacane now in the Minardi with the red wishbones. He is in 13th place, and Alexander Wurz is behind him in the Benetton.
Well, Jenson Button sort of regrouped and started coming back. He lost 6 or 7 seconds when he saw him bouncing across the gravel to Villeneuve, who'd snatched the 4th place on the pit stops, but Button taking 1.5 seconds out of Villeneuve on the previous lap. I think Villeneuve was lapped at that time. I don't think he's got any specific problem. Jenson now again establishing a 1 second lead. As I'm talking about it, back to Sarlo, and Johnny Herbert is a further 1.2 seconds behind. A bit of debris lodged under the front wing end fences of that Williams, but Button is picking up his pace, and we're going to take a break.
There is a fire at the rear of the car.
We ride with Rubens Barrichello there, and you see him in the background coming up behind Mazzacane, who is 13th, and Barrichello goes through on the inside. Now here is coming up a replay of what's just happened to Ricardo Zonta, the Brazilian who was in 11th position in the BAR Honda, which has grenaded itself in the biggest possible way, and out goes Ricardo Zonta. You see Ralf Schumacher going through on the Williams there. He's rejoined the race, and again we see this multiple replay to the embarrassment of Honda, and we rejoin now Ralf Schumacher, who is now 9 laps behind the leader Mika Hakkinen, but keeping running on what is in effect an extended test for the Williams BMW team. And his teammate Jenson Button is in 5th position, and if he can stay there, it will enable Williams to leapfrog Benetton in the Constructors' Championship and regain the 3rd position that they lost to Benetton in the Canadian Grand Prix.
No idea why Mazzacane had to stop and go. Could be pit lane speeding. I don't think he's been anywhere near on the track to be able to, and this is a replay of Ralf Schumacher, who is running last and some 9 laps behind the leader, just out for an afternoon sport, having managed to spin off as well, just for good measure. And Zonta, look, just about getting hit on the head by the and
yeah, thank you.
Well, there you go. It's catching, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's I mean, damn thing nearly hit him on the head, didn't it, with the shovel of the tractor.
So Mika Hakkinen, here he is, lap 63, 71 lap race. Well, I say again, people were starting to write Hakkinen off, the very determined, phlegmatic, experienced Finn. Rubens Barrichello is cutting into, at the rate of about 0.4 of a second a lap, David Coulthard's lead, which is now some 26 seconds over him. But the McLarens are in effect touring. They're still going very quickly indeed, but not nearly as quickly as they could do if they had to. And you will have observed that although there are dark storm clouds overhead, The majority of the sky is blue, the track is dry, there have been no adverse weather problems for the drivers and us to contend with in the Styrian Hills here in Austria.
Ralf Schumacher's decided to finally call it a day and parked in the pit, but up at the front end, Coulthard keeps nibbling away at the lead of Häkkinen, and Häkkinen responds, but between them they're pegging Barrichello in third place quite nicely. Villeneuve in fourth is a full 54 seconds behind third place man Barrichello, and really then Button another 7 seconds down. Salo and Herbert still in reasonably close company.
Yeah, Button's continuing to drive a cracking race in his efforts to catch fourth place Jacques Villeneuve, because he's pulling away from Mika Salo, who is in sixth position, and are going to score points again for the Sauber team, having already done so twice this year. In fact, he's actually done so 3 times this year, but he was disqualified from the Australian Grand Prix because of a technical infringement, no fault of his. But Jenson Button is crowding on extremely well. He's been lapped. There's only 3 people on this, the 64th lap at the present moment, and they are, well, Häkkinen, Coulthard and Barrichello. And we've been looking at this bird in its nest for most of the weekend. The producer seems to have a fixation with it. As you can see, it's in the corner of the Ferrari garage.
Amazed that he managed to get a pass out of Bernie Ecclestone to get in there, but I guess the action on the track is not that exciting right now, so we're seeing the bird tucked up in the corner of the garage, but Häkkinen probably thinks it's quite exciting from where he's sitting, as he once again buries his foot onto the brake pedal and turns that McLaren, which really, they have been the class of the field this weekend, haven't they? Michael Schumacher was shaking his head. He just couldn't get that Ferrari on the pace, and just how near he was managing to make it for the near the pace for the race, we never got a chance to find out with that silly incident in the first corner. But Häkkinen certainly has been in a class of his own.
Well, he may have a cosy little nest in the corner of the Ferrari garage, but if I know Formula One as well as I think I do, there's going to be quite a substantial rental. Lap 65, Mika Häkkinen goes through to complete it, and into his 66th lap now. He's only got 5 laps to go in, I was going to say, what will have been a magnificent comeback. That's silly, really, because Mika Häkkinen has certainly never been away, nor has Louise Goodman. She's down there in the pit lane.
I am, and indeed with Ralf Schumacher. Ralf, one way or another, a pretty troublesome race for you today.
Yeah, I think it was a weekend to forget, or a day to forget. I mean, at the start, it was a bit bad luck. You know, I was on the wrong side, basically, and got stuck. Then we had a brake disc problem, so I had to come in. We had to change the brake disc. I mean, it was a whole big mess this weekend.
You were 8 laps down. Why did you ever keep going in the first place?
It was just a decision taken by the team to keep on driving, see what we can do and what the car's like. That was the only reason.
Thanks, Ralf.
Well, not a good day for the Schumacher brothers. By far the most successful set of brothers that have ever taken part in Formula One. There are 7 sets of brothers, the Fittipaldis, the Stewarts, the Rodriguez brothers. I can't remember all the others off the top of my head. But Schumacher, Michael and Schumacher, Ralf, have been quite outstanding as siblings in Formula One. And Mika Häkkinen is quite outstanding here. He's driven an absolutely immaculate race. I can find absolutely no destructive criticism of it at all. He started from pole position. He's led all the way, except for when he came in for his sole pit stop when his teammate David Coulthard took over the lead, which Mika Häkkinen regained when Coulthard came in for his stop. And it looks as though it is going to be the 16th career win for Mika Häkkinen, and it's going to be the second only. It's only going to be the second win this year. He won 5 times last year, and that chap's been tottering about with that finish flag, to my certain knowledge, for 4 hours, because I was watching him do it this morning.
Now that you put the Murray Walker curse onto Mika Häkkinen, Coulthard is eating into his lead. It's now down to 11.1 seconds, but without doubt, Häkkinen is now enjoying the fruits of his afternoon. Earlier in the race, when he eked out that advantage with speed and with good use of the traffic, and Barrichello making his way through the back markers. I think Mazzacani, who's just being lapped again, actually got his stop-and-go penalty for not moving out of the way. We see him on the computer having had blue flags waved at him, so he was penalised, soon got out of the way that time, as Coulthard does a new fastest lap of the race by a long, long way. It just shows you the kind of pace those McLarens could have had this afternoon. He's done a 1:11.7. So Coulthard deciding he's going to have a bit of fun at the end. As long as he doesn't fall off, he'll be okay. And he's now just 9 seconds behind Häkkinen.
And that is an average speed around this 2.7-mile circuit of well over 134 miles an hour. Not just a maximum speed somewhere, an average speed round the whole circuit. And he's been doing speeds of up to 190 miles an hour at turn 1 and down to 45 miles an hour on turn 2. This circuit is in effect a series of straights with 2 or 3 very, very tight and slow corners. It's a killer on brakes.
I'd imagine the McLaren pits will be on the radio saying, have a word with yourself, David. What are you doing so close to the end of the Grand Prix? Häkkinen, you know, if you get there, you've got to pass him. Häkkinen can surely pick his pace back up again, but David obviously comfortable that he's can handle that kind of pace without falling off the road. He's got 27.5 seconds, look, back to Barrichello, and now he's stopped it. He's a 1:14.4. I think that was David just demonstrating, hey, look, this is what I could do if I really had total freedom this afternoon.
There's Mark, who is Mika's bald-headed, like me, Finnish-speaking physio, standing as ever with Eija, who is Mika's wife, while they watch their man's progress around this circuit, this magnificent, victorious progress. James, you've got something to add?
Yeah, Coulthard got a board there from the team saying easy. I just wonder whether in the early part of this race, you know, when they were hanging the boards out to both drivers saying easy, shift, revs, etc., and Häkkinen was ignoring that, just going faster and faster. I wonder if he was just trying to put pressure on Ron Dennis to say, look, we need team orders here. Tell DC he's not going to attack me, he's not going to race here. I just wonder whether that's gone on over the radio during the race. I just wonder whether that lap of DC's wasn't just a little bit of frustration. What do you think, Martin?
Well, David's certainly short-shifting plenty early enough at the moment as we move into these last few races. I think they were reasonably clear what they had to do as a team. As I said at the beginning, they had a fairly major problem. They needed to handle Ferrari as team players, yet they're both up for the World Championship. And as I expected, when David put the 11.7 in, the team immediately going to tell him just to sort himself out and not bother at this stage of the afternoon. I don't think that there was anything between them to say, hey, he's going to win the race and you're not, or anything like that. I think it's just this afternoon, Häkkinen has had more pace.
Yeah, well, if there is pressure between them, there's going to be even more in Germany, because David Coulthard is still, if my mental arithmetic is right, going to be 2 World Championship points ahead of Mika Häkkinen, still in second place in the World Championship at the end of this race.
This is a great drive from Villeneuve you're looking at now in 4th place. He's got a tricky decision. Does he go now to Renault, called Benetton at the moment, who they should be getting it together? Renault have done so well before in Formula 1, both with turbo and with normally aspirated engines. Or does he stay with BAR and trying to take some of the advantages out of all the hard work he's put in there? And oh, that was close, wasn't it? So I think Villeneuve really is in a tricky situation, because the last 3 or 4 races, that BAR has appeared to almost be the best of the rest after Ferrari and McLaren.
That's Wurz trying to stay ahead of Pedro Diniz and retain his 9th position, as Mika Häkkinen is now on his 71st and last lap, victoriously driving on at the A1 ring in Austria. David Coulthard, there is Häkkinen. David Coulthard is 12 seconds behind him. Rubens Barrichello is catching both of them, but it's academic. He's in 3rd place, 30 seconds over behind Häkkinen. Villeneuve, that magnificent 4th. Button is going to be in the points because he won't have to do the 71 laps on account of the fact he's been lapped. And Mika Salo is going to score a point, and Johnny Herbert is just going to miss it in 7th position. So in the closing stages of the Austrian Grand Prix, up to turn 7, comes Mika Häkkinen at about 130 miles an hour down to turn 8. And in Austria, Mika Häkkinen crosses the line to win his 16th Grand Prix. And we look back now for David Coulthard, who is going to be about 12 seconds behind his teammate. There he is, a magnificent, magnificent Austrian Grand Prix for McLaren. 16 Constructors' World Championship points. They move ahead of Ferrari, and my goodness, it is mighty, mighty close now in the Drivers' Championship, because Michael Schumacher is on 56 points. Mika Häkkinen is on 48 points, and David Coulthard is on 50 points. So it's going to be a terrific climax to the season, starting with the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim in 2 weeks' time. But to say again, the best possible situation, and that's for the 4th time this year for McLaren, because they achieved a 1st and 2nd at the British Grand Prix and at the Spanish Grand Prix 2 weeks ago in France, here today in Austria. 16 points times 4 from those 4 races alone. Barrichello just about saved Ferrari's bacon, but it was not a very convincing demonstration, one has to say, because he was 30 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen. And Villeneuve, who was 4th, was lapped. Button, for the 3rd time this year, scores World Championship points by finishing 5th after having started 18th. A terrific drive. And Mika Salo, who started ahead of Jenson Button, finishes behind him. 6th position, 1 World Championship point. 7th, Johnny Herbert. 8th, good finish for Marc Genet and Minardi. 9th, Pedro Diniz, so both the Saubers were in the top 10. Alex Wurz, the sole Benetton, in 10th position. Luciano Berti finishes, only lapped twice in his first Grand Prix, and that was for Jaguar. Both the Jaguars therefore finish, and that is an excellent achievement after the problems they've been having. Last one to finish, 3 laps down, Gaston Mazzacane from Argentina in 12th position. And James?
Well, I tell you, Murray, Ron is very, very happy. You've got your world champions, got his magic back. A tremendous day for the McLaren team.
Yes, good. Very good. Very happy. Great for the team, everybody back home. And I think it's, both drivers just did a great job.
You had to hang a few boards out to them to tell them to slow down at several stages. Did you at any stage you tell them to hold station, or were they racing each other all the way?
No, they once Mika had enough lead over David to manage anything that could happen in the pit stop, we slowed them both down. But they drove very well together, and it was hard for us to see them race so hard at the beginning. But once it was optimum gaps, then there was no sense to race each other, and very pleased for them both.
Big party in Woking tonight. Well done, Ron.
Thank you.
No change in the top 6 in the Drivers' Championship, but now just 8 points covers the first 3. Michael Schumacher 6 points ahead of David Coulthard, who is still 2nd, but Mika Häkkinen in 3rd position, 48 points, 6 behind Michael Schumacher, 2 behind David Coulthard. It's going to be a terrific finish to this World Championship Series. And we've still got the German, Hungarian, Belgium, Italian, the American Grand Prix at Indianapolis for the first time on September the 24th, and then off to the Far East for Japan on October the 22nd, and Malaysia, which is finishing the season, the 17th race on October the 22nd. And I confirm that McLaren are now leading Ferrari by 6 World Championship points in the Constructors' Championship, having taken 2nd place to them all the way up to now. And Williams have passed Benetton to 3rd.
Surely Schumacher can't lose this World Championship again this year. He was running away, wasn't he, so easily at the beginning of the year. McLaren seemed to have no reliability. Coulthard lost his points in Brazil. It just seemed so easy for Michael. Now he's got 2 McLaren drivers ganging up on him. They're just 2 points apart and 6 and 8 points behind him. So Michael really has got his hands full. But worse than that, Murray, the McLaren at the moment is a faster race car. In qualifying, I don't think there's much in it. Overall, at the various circuits, but in the race, the McLaren is faster.
Yes, we have to remember that Michael Schumacher is a superlatively good driver, and he can normally make up for something. The Ferrari is undoubtedly closer to the McLaren than it was last year. I mean, here last year, the two McLarens were a full second faster than Ferrari in qualifying, and that was a long way from the case today. But as you rightly say, the McLaren-Mercedes combination is better than the Ferrari chassis and Ferrari engine combination. And it's going to take an awful lot of work by Ferrari to get closer, because once the season has started, it is so difficult with testing and 2 weeks gap between each race and having to go to the next race to develop faster than the team ahead of you.
What was significant is when McLaren went to Ferrari's test track in Mugello last week, Panis, the test driver, was quicker both days than Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari, where he uses the car quite a lot. So Ferrari will have to regroup, they'll have to come back with something stronger. They've got Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne and a host of brilliant engineers at the Ferrari factory. Surely they can come up with something. They need to now, otherwise I can't see them being able to defend. I can't see Michael being able to defend the onslaught of Hakkinen and Coulthard.
No, neither can I. Talking about Olivier Panis, incidentally, who's done such a superb job as test driver for McLaren this year, I would not be at all surprised to see him back in Formula One as a competitor next year, perhaps for the Arrows team. That's my tip for the future. Let's see whether it works out. It's a very happy Hakkinen. And I mean, the story that because of her pregnancy, Mika Hakkinen was losing motivation has proved to be so much nonsense. Big crowd here in Austria. They've seen an excellent race. It was a pity, frankly, that the potential battle between Schumacher, once he got past Barrichello, as he would have done, was beaten. But so you can see how happy Mika is, rejuvenated. You don't see him as ebullient as that. That's a sort of Schumacher stance. Lots of very happy Finns here, the Finnish national anthem for Mika. And there's a lot of British people here who will be equally happy to hear the British national anthem for McLaren. I see Dave Ryan, who is the team manager for McLaren. He's very rightly going to receive the Constructors' Trophy, but Mika Hakkinen gets the Driver's Award from Dr. Wolfgang Schüssel, who is the Federal Chancellor of the Republic of Austria. Dave Ryan now gets the winning Constructors' Trophy from Dr. Boris Nemchik, who's the director of Mobil here in Austria, who have sponsored the race. And now Mika Hakkinen, having got his trophy, sees David Coulthard. Second place, Dr. Suzanne Ries-Passer, the Vice Federal Chancellor of Austria. And finally, the fourth trophy goes to the third place, Rubens Barrichello from Mrs. Waltraud Klasnik. Three very happy men after what has been a very significant Austrian Grand Prix, which has seen McLaren take the lead in the Constructors' Championship and the three drivers at the top separated by a mere 8 points.
Thanks very much indeed, Murray. Mika Hakkinen looking as joyful as I've ever seen him on a podium there. Martin Brundle is going to join us in the studio in a few moments' time. We've seen a real masterclass here from the world champion Hakkinen. We're going to be talking to the top three when they calm down and go into the press conference. We'll also hope to be hearing from Jenson Button, and there is Tony Jardine's analysis as well when you rejoin us in Austria.
Afgewacht. Misschien dat hij nog even een telefoontje pleegt naar Ricardo Zonta, Jan.
Nou ja, ik denk niet dat hij daar punten mee wint. Dus ik denk dat zijn conclusie toch ook zal zijn van ja, het zijn dingen die gebeuren. Het is even ongelukkig dat het hem even overkwam. Hè.
Voor de foto, Hakkinen, Coulthard en Rubens Barrichello. Ron Dennis belt even de uitslag door. Norbert Haug heeft een nieuwe zonnebril en dit is dan de uitslag van de grote prijs van Oostenrijk. Op kaart met toch wel verrassend op de 5e plaats Jenson Button. We moeten ook een pluim geven aan Jacques Villeneuve die terug was gevallen naar de 13e plaats, maar toch nog 4e werd. Salo scoort een puntje voor Sauber. Johnny Herbert dus net niet. Chenet ook aan de finish gekomen. Bij de Rodinis reed een anonieme race. Kwam één keer eventjes in de schijnwerpers door die stop-and-go penalty. Alexander Woods voor eigen publiek 10e slechts. En het wordt heel moeilijk voor de Oostenrijker. Die zien we waarschijnlijk volgend jaar niet meer terug in de Formule 1. Luciano Burti kreeg de kans omdat Eddie Irvine thuis zit met een blinde darmontsteking. En werd 11e. De Braziliaan en Mazzacane sluit de rij op de 12e plaats. En een groot leger dus aan uitvallers. Hier hebben we ze. Zonta, Ralf Schumacher, Nick Heidfeld, Jean Alesi, Pedro de la Rosa, ook Jos Verstappen. Moet gezegd, Frenze, Michael Schumacher, Jarno Trulli en Giancarlo Fisichella. Het zorgt er wel voor dat er nog altijd volop spanning is in de strijd om de wereldtitel. Waar Michael Schumacher dus nog altijd aan de leiding gaat met 56 punten. Maar zijn voorsprong inmiddels wat kleiner is geworden. Coulthard volgt op 6 punten en Hakkinen op 8. In het constructeurskampioenschap heeft McLaren de eerste plaats overgenomen van Ferrari. Staat Benetton nog wel derde. Williams heeft de derde plaats overgenomen van Benetton. Dat moet wel goed rekenen. En het team van BAR is opgeschoven naar de 5e plaats. En wij wachten op de persconferentie met Mika Hakkinen, David Coulthard en Rubens Barrichello. Het is droog gebleven in Oostenrijk. Gisteren niet, vandaag wel. Het waait wel lekker. Deze mensen proberen allemaal nog even een glimp op te vangen van hun matadoren.
Top 3 finish in the 2000 Austrian Grand Prix. Mika Hakkinen, David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello. Mika, many congratulations on a very dominant victory. The 16th of your career and your first since Barcelona. If I can just start by asking you about the start and in particular the first corner. Could you see anything from your vantage point on the track of what happened?
No, I did not see what happened. I just saw what happened was going round the first corner when I was heading for turn 2, they showed yellow flags, and I was a bit surprised why they showing yellow flags over there. But then later on after turn 2, the team informed about the safety car and it was impossible to really to see what happened. But then when I went next lap, I saw a lot of cars on the gravel, so I realized what happened.
Now, early on in the race, you received a shift rev sign from your pit. What was that?
Yeah, it's something what the driver doesn't necessarily want to sometimes see. It basically it means it's no point to rev the engine in the maximum RPM, so you don't have to take everything out of the engine. In that point, personally, I was not sure exactly was there a problem, or did they show me just it was no point to push. So automatically I did drop to RPM a couple hundred revs.
But there had been no team orders at that point or anything like that?
What?
No team orders at that point?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay. Mika, look, well done.
Thank you.
David, you made a super start, equal with Mika, and then seemed to brake very hard into turn one. Look, did you change of heart going into there?
Well, you have to brake hard for the corners, first of all, and being on the inside, then you never come quite sure exactly where the dust is and how much grip you're going to have. So I took it as far as I felt comfortable, and obviously Mika had the advantage because he was on the outside. So you just have to sometimes accept that you can't brake as hard and as late on the inside line as you can the outside. Simple as that.
Mika pulled out a significant gap in the first stint. Did you have any problems? Because he then came back and set fastest lap right at the end to prove that you had the pace.
No, not especially. I was, first of all, as you can probably imagine, quite happy with the outcome of the first lap, because that gave me an opportunity right away to close in a lot on Michael. And it became clear after about 8 or 9 laps that the extra fuel I was carrying initially meant that Mika was able to open up a slight gap. So then there was no real point to battle really hard, because I'm chasing a slightly quicker car at that point, and in reality I could have turned what was an easy 6 points into maybe nothing if we were really battling hard on the track. So I was quite comfortable to just today accept the 6 points, try and hope the car was reliable, which it was, and I said to the guys in the slow down lap, that's the car has finished every Grand Prix since Brazil, including Brazil, and I think that's fantastic reliability, and hopefully that'll continue for the rest of the season.
You're now just 6 points behind Michael Schumacher. Are you thinking of the world title yet?
No, I don't think there's any need to think about that. It's individual races that if you do well in all of those, then the reward for that is having more points than the others in a world championship. So I just want to look towards the next Grand Prix, and I think we'll be strong there. I think I'll be strong there, and try and get maximum points at that race.
Well done, David. Thanks a lot. Rubens, you're probably the best qualified here to comment on the first corner mayhem. How did you see it?
Well, actually, I didn't see very much. I saw that Michael came on the inside, and I didn't want to make any problem for him, because we teammates, we have to work together for Ferrari. All of a sudden, I was hit by somebody, and obviously I went out on the track on the gravel. And, I was lucky to survive then, and really I'm lucky to finish third today, because the car was undrivable until I came to the pit stop, and then we made a little bit of adjustment. And so the car, it was simply not what I expected, just because the floor was broken.
And that's why you seemed unable to do anything about Pedro de la Rosa.
Exactly. I was struggling with a very loose car at that point, and I was just hoping that things would change. It changed later on after the pit stop, but it was too late.
Rubens, many thanks. Mika, McLaren have now taken the lead in the Constructors' Championship by 8 points.
Good.
We go to Hockenheim, a power track. You've got a very good engine. You must feel very confident there.
There is all the reasons to feel confident, yes, to go to Hockenheim. All the past years we always have been very competitive over there and very quick. So we're going to go flat out. We are confident.
Thank you, Mika, and well done. And now just a word from you and Rubens in your own languages, please.
Nou, niet de meest opwindende persconferentie dit seizoen. Maar Mika Hakkinen was in ieder geval een tevreden man. Het is trouwens opvallend dat het de 8e keer op rij was dit seizoen dat de beide McLaren's aan de finish kwamen. Daar wordt de betrouwbaarheid dus steeds beter. Hakkinen had helemaal niks gezien van wat er allemaal achter hem gebeurde. Hij zag wat gele vlag in de tweede bocht en was daar toch wel een beetje door verrast. En toen hoorde hij over zijn radio dat het een safety car situatie was.
Ja, dat is een beetje vreemd eigenlijk. Want iedere rijder die natuurlijk op dat niveau rijdt, die weet gewoon dat als je over het hele circuit gele vlaggen ziet, dat er een safety car is. Dus het verbaasde mij dat hij daarover verbaasd was eigenlijk.
Ja, dan even het pitbord wat hij kreeg. Het werd hem duidelijk gemaakt om het wat rustiger aan te doen. Zelf had hij niet echt in de gaten of het nou een probleem was met de motor. En het uit voorzorg werd gedaan, maar hij heeft in ieder geval wel het aantal toeren van zijn motor wat naar beneden gebracht. Hij bleef wel gewoon hard rijden en pakte zijn tweede zege op rij, of dit seizoen, niet op rij natuurlijk. En ja, hij is een geduchte kans hebben over 2 weken in Hockenheim op dat snelle circuit. Coulthard, die wilde voorkomen dat hij net zoals vorig jaar Hakkinen van de baan tikte. Moest wel in de remmen bij die eerste bocht. Hij zat aan de binnenkant. Er was geen andere mogelijkheid. Rubens Barrichello had het hele eerste gedeelte van de race last van een auto die niet wilde wat hij wilde. Omdat hij ook aangetikt werd bij die schermutselingen in de eerste bocht. En zijn bodem beschadigd was. Dus er was geen enkel mogelijkheid voor hem om zeg maar, echt goed in te lopen op Pedro de la Rosa. En uiteindelijk is hij gewoon tevreden met die derde plaats. Jan, ja, over 2 weken Hockenheim. Dat is een circuit met hele lange rechte stukken. Nou, waar we hopelijk wel weer wat van Jos Verstappen en Pedro de la Rosa kunnen verwachten.
Ja, ik heb het hele jaar altijd gedacht dat Hockenheim een goede race voor ze zou kunnen zijn. Ik had dat hier ook gedacht, maar het merkwaardige hier was weer dat die topsnelheid die ontbrak. Dat ze zaten niet in die top 3 waar ze eigenlijk het hele jaar hebben gezeten. Maar wat ik net bij de reactie van Hakkinen ook eventjes frappant vond. Dus hij ligt heel comfortabel op kop. En dan ben je verbaasd dat je zo'n teken krijgt van je toeren bij het schakelen. En dan vraag je je af van is er een probleem of wat dan ook. Je moet het bijna vanzelfsprekend vinden dat je zelf je toerental teruggeeft. Als je dus zo op kop ligt en als je teammaat tweede ligt die als buffer voor jou kan figureren. Dus het verbaasde me ook dat hij daar weer verrast door was.
Goed, wij blikken nog even terug op de grote prijs van Oostenrijk. Hier nog een brede glimlach bij Michael Schumacher. Hakkinen de man op pole position. En dan al meteen problemen voor Luciano Burti die vanuit de pit zal moeten stappen. We starten. Handje van Norbert Hout voor Jean Todt. McLaren versus Ferrari. En hier is Schumacher. Toen was er nog niks aan de hand. Met naast hem op de tweede rij Rubens Barrichello, Coulthard en Hakkinen samen op de eerste rij met de Finn op pole position. Let op de start. Hier gaat het allemaal nog goed. Coulthard is wel goed weg. Maar kan er niet voorbij in de eerste bocht. Dan krijgt zometeen Schumacher een tikje van Riccardo Zonta. En daar begint het dus allemaal. Oep, daar glijdt zometeen de Duitse door het beeld. Hier komt een tikje Sedut. Barrichello moet dan wel de grindbak in.
En daar zagen we dus eventjes dat Verstappen met zijn linkervoorkant tegen Salo aankwam.
Kijk ook even naar het uitstapje van Jacques Villeneuve. Die ook flink wat plaatsen terugvalt. Er zijn een hoop mensen die profiteren. Ja. En dan de wandeling van Michael Schumacher terug naar de pits. Voor hem is het over. La Rosa schuift dan op naar de derde plaats. Terwijl hier Rubens Barrichello Johnny Herbert pakt. Dan blaast Frenzen zijn motor op. En na het uitvallen van Trulli ligt ook Frenzen eruit. Hij houdt zijn wagen niet meer op de baan. En dan kan Eddie Jordan met zijn hele renstal dan al naar huis toe na 5 ronden. Barrichello er ook voorbij bij Salo. Schuift op naar de vierde plaats. Ralf Schumacher zijn voorvleugel hangt op 6:30. Ook hij is niet ongeschonden uit de strijd gekomen. En dan Jos Verstappen. Kapotte versnellingsbak. En dan moet hij wel het grind in. En dan heeft deze man nog 1 troef in de race. En dat is Pedro de la Rosa. Dan krijgen we een stop en go voor de heren Diniz en Riccardo Zonta. Burti eenzaam en alleen strijdend in de achterhoede. En Hakkinen rijdt dan zo op het ogen gewonnen race. Want deze man heeft iets meer benzine aan boord. En Hakkinen rijdt van hem weg. Herbert en Button zijn dan de mannen die geprofiteerd hebben van wat er allemaal in de eerste ronde gebeurde. En maken kansen op punten. Hier Rubens Barrichello, u ziet het goed, zijn bodem. Daar is iets kapot en daar heeft hij dus last van. Gaat er niet altijd zachtzinnig aan toe op de A1-ring. En dan ook de pech voor Pedro de la Rosa. Na Jos Verstappen valt hij uit met waarschijnlijk hetzelfde probleem. Je ziet ook vriendin de la Rosa en Von Walkinshaw. Wat zuur. Jensen Button komt van de 18e plaats. En klimt langzaam maar zeker naar voren. Hier nog achtervolgd door Giancarlo Minardi. Hier dat moment dat de heren van Prost elkaar uit gaan schakelen. Kijk eens eventjes. Bargeboard van Alesi hier wordt aan flarden gereden door Nick Heidfeld. Die weigert de Fransman er aan de binnenkant langs te laten. Er zal nog wel even over nagepraat worden bij Alain Prost. Ja, die grijpt naar zijn hoofd. Hoe kan dit in hemelsnaam gebeuren?
Jean Alesi en Nick Heidfeld. Dan weer terug naar Jenson Button. Inmiddels ligt hij op de 5e plaats. Beleeft hier even een bang moment. Komt naast de baan terecht, maar kan wel door. Dan het afscheid van Ricardo Zonta. Rosbron, ja, moet hij nou blij zijn met die 3e plaats van Rubens Barrichello. Het is het maximaal haalbare, want McLaren gaat de dubbel scoren. Hier nog even het gevecht om de 5e plaats. Maar Button houdt het voor Salo en Johnny Herbert. Dus is er toch applaus, ook van mevrouw Hakkinen. En heeft deze man alle reden om bovenop zijn bolide te klimmen. Want hij is de winnaar van de grote prijs van Oostenrijk. En heeft nog maar 8 punten achterstand op Michael Schumacher. Coulthard staat er nog maar 6 achter. Dus het wordt nog spannend, de resterende 7 Grand Prix van dit seizoen. De champagne smaakte goed voor Mika Hakkinen. Goed, iedereen kan naar huis. Onze volgende afspraak is dus over 2 weken. En dan zien we elkaar terug in Duitsland op het circuit van Hockenheim. En dat doen we vanaf vrijdag 14 juli. Namens Jan Lammers zeg ik u bedankt voor het kijken. Het was een aardige Grand Prix. Hier nog een keertje de stand te beeld. Kijk er nog even rustig aan en dan concludeer je zelf ook dat het nog heel spannend is. Tot over 2 weken in Hockenheim. Dag.
No wonder if you have samples of something before, because it must be.
I don't know if it helps. Or just the baby out. Yeah. They don't need.
See that? You had more coverage on TV today than anybody else in the A. I got one from my New Zealand, so you look pretty happy with that. Could not be better. See you later. Austria has always been a big goal.
Yes.
We're going to have it. Oh, guarantee we ain't going to tell you, isn't it? Nah, it's reading messages.
Richard!
Ron Dennis, McLaren have retaken the lead in the Constructors' Championship this weekend. Mika Häkkinen's return to form. You must be an extremely happy man.
It's a pretty good outcome to the weekend. I think we've worked hard, not just for this weekend, but for all the races leading up to it. It's psychologically, you know, we were well behind.
We're going to be hearing from the top 3 very shortly here at the A1 ring. Let me just show you how today's race has changed the standings, the driver's standings. That is what it's all squeezing up there now, isn't it? Michael Schumacher just 6 points ahead of David Coulthard. Mika Häkkinen, the world champion, very much back in the mix, 48 points, a couple behind Coulthard. Barrichello up there on the podium on 36 points. Fisichella, a rare non-finish for him today, back on 18. Ralf Schumacher had a pretty bad time in the Williams on 14. And Jacques Villeneuve on 11 in the BAR. It really is squeezing up very nicely at the top. And in the constructors, well, the McLaren maximum has taken them ahead of Ferrari. McLaren 98 points, Ferrari 92. Williams just a point clear of Benetton going for that third place. Let's go straight to the press conference.
Grand Prix. Mika Hakkinen, David Cool. Thank you, Mika, and well done. And now just...
Yeah, next we go to Hockenheim, Michael Schumacher, home territory, of course. We're going to have a word now with Jenson Button, waiting to have a chat to us down in the pits. Hi, Jenson. A nice smile on your face. I mean, starting down in 18th as you did and finishing up 5th. I mean, that's not a bad afternoon's work.
I think it was a bit more luck than judgment on the first corner. But I suppose I was in the right place at the right time, and I think I came out about 7th, so it wasn't a bad start. And then at the pit stops, the team did a great job to get me in front of Salo and Herbert, just for Villeneuve to come out in front of me after his stop. So it was good to finish 5th, and it's also good to get some points after such a long time. The last Grand Prix was Silverstone, so it's good to be back up there and joint with Frentzen on points.
Sure, where you finished 5th as well at Silverstone, didn't you? What happened to you during that accident that took Schumacher out of the race then?
I couldn't really see that much because there was so much smoke. I don't know if it was tyre smoke or what, but I just kept on the inside, sat behind Johnny, and we were able to come through it. There was cars all over the place though. We just had to dodge them. It was like dodgems. It was crazy, but we just about got through. And then I had my own little excursion towards the end of the race, but I've told Frank and Patrick I did that on purpose to make it a bit more interesting. I think they were getting bored in the garages.
It was a tough car to drive, that Williams, wasn't it, towards the end of the race?
After the pit stop, sorry, the second stint, it was quite tail-endy, as you probably noticed. But we still finished 5th, so it's not really the problem. Obviously, we've got to do a lot of testing before Hockenheim to get it back on the pace. But I'm looking forward to it, and it's BMWs and Ralph's home circuit, so hopefully we can get a good result there.
Murray alluded to a little conversation that Frank Williams had with you yesterday, without asking you to give away any trade secrets. Of course, he wouldn't do that. Just give us an indication of what the tone of the conversation with Frank, could you?
Just a friendly little chat, really. Obviously, we're both very busy on the weekends, so it's good to talk now and again. It was just a reassurance, really. Obviously, nothing's been decided for my future next year. And it was just a reassurance, really, and don't worry about it, and do your best this weekend. That's all I can do.
Friendly and encouraging, was it?
Oh, definitely. We had a good chat, not just about racing, about other things as well. So I think we're all in good spirit now, especially after today's result.
And from your point of view, Jenson, we're sort of at a half-term stage in the Formula One season anyway. If you were making your own report, what sort of marks would you give yourself so far? What sort of comments would you make?
Sort of comments. Do another start like this one, but I don't think that's going to happen, and hopefully I won't be that far back next time. I'm happy, definitely, to be on 5 points after half season. The same as Frentzen and the Jordans, so it's good. I'm very happy. Obviously we've had some bad races as well, but I suppose you have the bad with the good, and just hopefully my bad luck's out of the way now and we can just concentrate on getting good results and learning the circuits as well still, so it's not too bad.
Tony Jardine's here, he just wants a word with you in a moment, but before I sort of shut up here, I mean, can you give us any indication at all about your future, about where you're going to be driving next season?
I haven't got a clue. Hopefully here, but we'll see what happens. We'll see in the next.
Okay, thanks, Jenson. Here's Tony.
Jenson, also, you were ahead of Ralph most of this weekend. You must be very pleased with that. That's progress, isn't it?
Sorry, I've lost you a bit. The engine started. But no, it's been a good weekend for both of us, I think. Ralph had a few problems on Friday testing, but no, we've been pretty close, and it's good to be on Ralph's pace again. And it's good for both of us because we can both push the car to the limits and try our different ways. And it's been good. We've worked well together this weekend, and it's good to get some points. I mean, Ralph wasn't able to due to the start, but I think he would have done a good job as well.
Thanks, Jenson. As always, we appreciate you joining us, and of course we're watching you very closely no matter what happens next season. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Right, Martin Brundle, let's go back to this race. A little comment on that young man. I mean, starting from where he did, and they'd had a pretty miserable old time until the race, haven't they, Williams? He did the business this afternoon, didn't he?
Yeah, he kept his head, didn't he, in difficult circumstances. Then put a good race in, made one small mistake, which he's able to have a grin about afterwards. But otherwise, it was good. I mean, obviously, BAR managed to get Villeneuve out in front of him. Otherwise, I think he could have had a pretty solid 4th place there.
But, I mean, McLaren are on such a roll at the moment, aren't they? Maximum points here, maximum points a couple of weeks ago. And Ferrari, well, will they be able to find something in the second half of the season, do you feel?
Well, they've simply got to, haven't they, somehow. They've got enough people and they've got all the resources they need to do that. So, yes, I think they will find something. But what's to say that McLaren haven't got a few more tricks in their box yet as well? And you could see at the press conference there, the 2 McLaren drivers were, you know, they're really looking forward to Hockenheim, aren't they? And Barrichello was a bit reflective of, my car wasn't very good in the first part of this race, and he was 1.5 seconds off the pace, as we said. Seems like he may have had a damaged floor from the first. How he knows that, I don't know, because the drivers, you don't get much chance to look underneath your car when you're in Parc Fermé, but it's a good story anyway. But nonetheless, clearly Rubens has been fast around this track all through practice, qualifying, and the warm-up this morning. In the race, he had no pace at all, did he? So he was struggling for whatever reason.
We'll look at the key instance in just a couple of minutes' time. But, you know, I was over there this morning in the media centre, and someone came out to me and said, you could bet your life on it. First corner, Schumacher's going to get taken off. Now, did it come as a great surprise to you, bearing in mind the shape of the grid, that happened?
It was Zonta that ran into him. Zonta's traditionally started a long way down the field where you have to brake very early for the first corner because you get a concertina effect. His big moment had arrived, hadn't it? Zonta out-qualified teammate Villeneuve, right up with the big boys at the front. Up the inside, Coulthard was saying it's dusty up there, difficult, and he simply out-braked himself going in there and gave Michael a nudge. It just happens, as Michael said in his interview with us halfway through the race. I've done that enough time. We've all done that. It happens. You know, there's nothing you do. Your front tyres are cold, your brakes are cold, and if you go in a few metres too deep, you're just going to have an inevitable accident. And Michael was on the receiving end of it. I think once or twice per season, you're going to trip over somebody, or they're going to knock you off the road. Once or twice per season, your car's going to blow up or fail in some way. And Michael's going through those in quite a short space of time.
Thanks very much indeed, Martin. We'll be right back with you, and we'll be looking at the key moments of the Austrian Grand Prix. I have to tell you, there's been a very dramatic change in the betting for the World Drivers' Championship on the back of what has happened here. These are the odds supplied to us by the bookmakers Ladbrokes. Well, those were the odds back on June the 3rd, a month ago. Schumacher, a prohibitive 7-1 on favourite. Mika Häkkinen, world champion, at 7-2, and David Coulthard, a big outsider, at 12-1. Spool on. After the race today, odds against for the first time this season. Michael Schumacher 5-4, and the bookies go 2-1. Both Mika Häkkinen and David Coulthard, underlining what a thrilling climax to the season we are in for. Okay, Tony, let's have a look at the start of the race. You have first bite at this and give us your views on what happened here.
I think the great thing about this is David Coulthard at Mugello at that test where only Ferrari were. He'd done about 30 practice starts. That's what he went there to do. And look, he went off so well, and the McLarens were neck and neck, and they left them all behind. While behind the rest of the pack are jostling. Häkkinen just nips in there, and then it all breaks loose as Zonta does his stuff on the outside. Now Barrichello there escaping, you can just see him going across the gravel. You can see how badly Villeneuve was affected. Poor Trulli's out. Ralf Schumacher, you can see there, he's stopped as well. He's taken the damage. But look again at the anticipation of Coulthard. That is one of his best ever starts, and he was neck and neck all the way there, just until that last corner leading up to turn 1. And there's the mayhem. There's Schumacher spinning off. There's the damage. Now more damage done now by Trulli going in and taking it off. And on the inside, the Sabre of Deniz has spun off as well. Now he gets a tap, I think, Barrichello here. Look, just from Trulli. And that's what Rubens was talking about, feeling that just before now. And it really is a big mess.
Now, Martin, I know you've got a point to make. I just want to put one thing to you. You are Michael Schumacher, and the one thing you want is that race to restart. That must be the first thing that goes through your brains. Is there any way that you can manoeuvre that?
For sure. It didn't work out though, did it?
No.
Michael waited. Michael waited. Look, here he goes. Look. He waited until they pulled the Jordan away. Somehow the anti-stall had collected the engine up. He drives back onto the racing line, look. So the car's working absolutely fine. And, oh no, I'm going to have to park it there. But looking again at that replay without having to commentate on it, there was a set piece going on with Ferrari into that first corner. Barrichello was yielding to Michael, and they both got a thump up the backside because I think they were hovering to make the set piece work, because Barrichello got a much better start than Michael. Although his car was fatter, had more fuel on board, we know he went 40-odd laps into the race. But as he was hovering, letting Michael go, the pair of them got whacked up the backside.
So is that in some way Ferrari really paying the penalty for Michael Schumacher being their numero uno, come what may?
No, I don't think it's fair to say it's a penalty. I think they had a strategy. They didn't have as fast a car as McLaren. Therefore, they had to pull something out of the bag. I think that was very legitimately part of that procedure, but they paid a price for it because while they were hovering, the whole lot behind them just couldn't slow down.
Jim, I was just going to say, I mean, it's an old rally trick, is that if you've had a bit of an accident or whatever, you try and make sure the car ends up in the middle of the stage, so you block the stage. And I'm sure there must have been a thought there, as Martin said, well, and just get it to the edge there, and maybe this red flag is what I want. The irony here is it's Charlie Whiting, the race director, on whom all the drivers turned in the briefing on Friday night when they were complaining all about Schumacher's starts. And it's this time Charlie's prompt action to get the safety car out and the work of the marshals that has conspired against Michael Schumacher. And he was defending Michael Schumacher almost on Friday by saying, look, he hasn't actually done anything wrong. If you needed to do anything, you should have protested after the French Grand Prix.
Charlie wanted to make sure our programme didn't go into Coronation Street again, I think, so he didn't want to...
That would have been some overrun,
He didn't want to put the red flags out.
Heinz Harald Frentzen crashed off the street, didn't they? And then, I mean, the Jordans have had a pretty rough old time here all weekend.
They're not having a great season, are they? All the potential's there, the speed is there. Frentzen, I'm pretty sure this was not his fault. The car was already smoking as he went in there, and he buried the throttle trying to drive his way out of problem. I mean, of course, he doesn't know why the car spun off. We had a better view of all of that than he did. He did the only thing that he could, and that's bury the throttle. Unfortunately, he should have stopped about now and let the car roll backwards, because with the tyres still churning, all it's going to do, I mean, we know the car runs just over an inch off the road. You haven't got to lift much gravel out of the way before you're on your belly.
OK, let's have a quick word, shall we, with Johnny Herbert. He's got that Jaguar home in 7th place, and here he is chatting to Louise.
Johnny, 7th place, that's almost the worst place to finish, isn't it?
It is the worst place to finish, I think. Yeah, it was disappointing because obviously 5th before the pit stops and 7th after them, so it was close to Mika when we came out, but it wasn't quite enough to stay in front of him. And then Jensen, obviously when he pitted, they seemed to gain a hell of a lot of time, and he came out in front of both of us. So then it's very, very hard. I tried as hard as I could to get up to them, which I got up to the back of Mika, but it's very, very hard to pass. But maybe another lap.
So you'll be off to have a little word with your team now, will you?
Well, no, I have to see why we lost it. It may not be, maybe just that they did a better one than us. But okay, again, I don't know yet. I have to see.
And just to remind you, no Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar team today. We expect him back, though, in a couple of weeks' time. We had the story about Prost, Martin, before the race. It looks as though Alain Prost could be coming to the end of his stewardship there. I'm sure that story will develop. But I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but I mean, it's pretty embarrassing when two cars take each other out from the same team, isn't it?
It's astonishing. I mean, Alesi thinks he should automatically be let through there, and I think he's probably right in that situation because they're on different strategies. There's something flew off one of the Prost there. I think Alesi had already got, he said we touched before this when we interviewed him during the race. Heidfeld, I think, was right not to expect Alesi to keep coming. He had, although this camera angle makes it look worse than it is, or makes it look clearer that Alesi, but Alesi's already out of control anyway, look, and the inevitable happens. Heidfeld, he came into Formula One, he won the Formula 3000 Championship. He's strongly backed by Mercedes-Benz. He's had a terrible season. He does not want to yield in that situation. Prost should have been managing
that from the pit wall. Alesi made that point. But at the same time, Jean can't automatically expect him to leap out of the way if he sends one up the inside.
We talked to Jensen about half-time or half-term reports. Actually, you had the Prost bottom of your charts, didn't you? And I don't think they've done much here to move up the class, have they? Jensen Button, though, probably has, hasn't he, Tony? And I don't know. I think the expectation is that he will be moving away from Williams, but certainly the expectation is that he will keep his seat in Formula One. And he's done himself no harm this afternoon.
Hasn't. There's a very tasty rumour going around that he will end up at Benetton with Jacques Villeneuve, and we don't know whether Briatore is going to keep Fisichella or not, but this pit stop was certainly very, very smooth, and you know, it belies the guy's age. He's just 20 years of age, and he's cruising. He's a thinking driver as well. He's an intelligent driver, and as Gerhard Berger said, the guy hasn't made many mistakes at all in this season. He's very, very pleased with him. And I would have thought lots of teams would be clamouring after him, but this is where he goes off. Now, this is what I want Mark to see, because I think the splitter underneath gets more damage than the actual nose cone when he went off. Schumacher did this a couple of years ago when the gravel was much rougher. We saw it at the beginning of the programme. It was an awfully rough ride, but I don't know whether he under-exaggerated how bad the car felt after that or not, because they were ready with a new nose cone.
Jensen's got one big problem, that he's on a leash at Williams, a 5-year deal. And now they've got to buy themselves. Frank's got to, if he's not going to use him, and my information is that he's not going to use him next year, I hope that's wrong, but my information is that the deal's already been done with Chip Ganassi to release Montoya. To move Jensen on, to allow him, who wants to take him, put up with his learning process and develop him into a top-line racing driver, a Formula 1 driver that he can so clearly be, and then only to lose him back to Williams. So if Frank has got that 5-year deal still in place, he's got to set Jensen free from that.
Absolutely, I would expect some sort of announcement this week actually on that. But a word about David Coulthard. Didn't win, but crikey, he's well in there, isn't he? As the bookies have just confirmed for us.
I wouldn't think he'd be very happy bunny tonight, because Hakkinen was quicker around this track. David got on top of him for a few races now. Mika was the man around here, and if you look in David's eye on the podium, he hates that second place a lot, especially if Mika's standing on the slightly taller step. And but hey, he's moved up. As he said, I'm closer to Michael Schumacher, and now he's got some help, because Michael can't afford now to have a wheel-to-wheel with either of those two McLaren drivers, because the other one is in a strong position too.
Thanks very much to you both. Well, there we are then. We are coming towards the end of our live coverage of the 10th Grand Prix of the season. We try and get things right, but a bit like Michael Schumacher today, well, we do have our moments.
Ready? Hi, I'm Jensen Button.
It's all big.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm just waiting for something to happen.
Ron, congratulations. It couldn't have gone any better.
That's quite good, really.
I say congratulations. It really couldn't have gone any better, could it?
Can we grab a word, Mika? Why do you always get the giggles when I'm talking to you?
It's very exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Is that all right, darling? Lovely.
People think we make this up as we go along.
That's the same colour as my hair, isn't it?
Respect, Max.
Yes, we should do all this. This is like LEG. Have you ever interviewed me before?
I interviewed you this afternoon after the qualifying session, Jensen.
I don't know why I had to say respect. it's some wind-up.
So that he could have a tart.
Chilly and totally uninviting. That's the scenario. No, Keith, you're not panning up there, pal, are you?
This could take forever. Ready?
Ready.
and it's
Bit steep for you and me, Jim, but I reckon Teach could probably savour us. Ah!
Come back up the inside of you on the way out, and it's a...
Hi, I'm Jensen Button. Start again.
Well, that was all right for me, chaps. We're not quite done yet. Highlights tonight, reaction and comment at 11:15, repeated as always on ITV2 tomorrow night. We come back in a couple of weeks, qualifying from 11:30 on the Saturday morning. Race build-up from 12:15 and highlights 11:50. So another 1-2 for McLaren, would you believe it? David Coulthard second here for the 4th year running. Don't worry, he could still be top man come the end of the season. From the whole ITV team, good afternoon.
Michael, can you tell us, what was your version of events there?
One of these guys here went into the back of me and turned me around.
Did you see, were you not slowed on the pit straight?
Huh?
There was a knock-on effect on the pit straight. Were you part of that?
No, somebody hit me in the back and turned me around. Be careful.
How does this affect the championship as far as you're concerned?
I can't score points, so what can I say?
Okay, well, bad luck, Michael. Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Jarno Trulli, what was your version of events at the start?
Well, I don't know what's happened exactly. I just, in the middle of the corner, I've seen there were someone in trouble, and unfortunately I hit it. And I just found the way blocked in front of me, so I couldn't avoid the accident.
Do you think they should have stopped the race?
I don't know, it's difficult to say. They decided to not stop the race, so it's very unfortunate for me. I couldn't rejoin.
Bad luck, Jarno. Thanks for talking to us.
You're welcome.
Verstappen, what's up with your car?
Gearbox failure. The car was running fine. I mean, except at the start, I hit my front wing, so I had to come in. But after that on the circuit, the car was handling very well. I mean, and if you think we were on a one-stop strategy, I mean, it was a shame. I mean, as well the accident in the first corner. So, yeah, shame.
Well, is Pedro on the same strategy as you?
You will see soon.
Okay, thanks for talking to us.
And the same problem we had in Magny-Cours seemed to have happened again, and it's very strange because we've never had such a problem. So at the moment, feel very disappointed for the great job we've done this weekend, how well we've been going the whole weekend, especially in the race where we were on a one-stop strategy, like everyone, and many teams thought we were on a two, but we were keeping the pace quite well. So at the moment, I'm very, very disappointed.
What actually happened at the start, as far as you could see?
It was, I mean, there were cars everywhere. I was coming into the first corner, and I saw Benetton spinning. And in a way, I was lucky because I was at the right point. I could see this Benetton spinning. I put the power down, and I just avoided all the carnage.
Pedro, thanks for talking to us, and very bad luck.
Next race.
The hack is back in great style too. Häkkinen dominant throughout the weekend, always in control of the Austrian Grand Prix. Coulthard second for the 4th year running here. Barrichello's podium, scant consolation for Ferrari.
It probably did not look so exciting on television, and it probably looked quite easy. And one point it was quite easy, to be honest. The moment where I was definitely sure. You know, everything became much easier when I had a fuel stop and when the mechanics changed the tires. After that, I knew the game is definitely on my side, and I can really start looking for saving the machine.
When Michael went out at the beginning, that changed my attitude a little bit to the race. I knew I was running a bit more fuel than Mika, so I would be a little bit slower up to the first stop. But after about 10 laps, I thought, okay, let's just cock Annie here, and I took it very easy with the traffic and just tried to get the car home. So from that point of view, I'm happy.
I was lucky today to finish third. I mean, I had a big bang from behind on the start. I broke my floor, so the car was completely undrivable to begin with. And so basically I'm lucky to finish the race today. The car was really in pieces after the first lap.
I just watched the video there, and I could see the both Ferrari, they stopped completely the first corner. Me and Trulli, we hit the both Ferrari on the back, and as Michael was in the inside, very inside on the dirt, he spun off, and then everybody crashed.
I think now everything really starts. Now we start really fighting.
And just look how competitive the Drivers' Championship is now. David Coulthard has cut Schumacher's lead to 6 points. Häkkinen very much in the hunt for his 3rd successive title. Barrichello's 4 points is Ferrari's only return this weekend. Fisichella failed to finish for the first time in 11 races. A blank weekend for both the Schumachers. Villeneuve, though, he's up into double figures. And McLaren hit the front of the constructors for the first time this season. They go 6 clear of Ferrari. Williams overtake Benetton thanks to Jenson Button. Still though on 18 points Benetton. BAR leapfrog Jordan, and Mika Salo taking Sauber above Jaguar. Okay, let's have a word with Tony Jardine about the Austrian Grand Prix. Another huge weekend for McLaren. It's looking good for them.
It's looking good for us in the championship. It's closed right down to 6 points. It's absolutely brilliant. But Villeneuve, the piece, the big decider at that crunch at the first corner. Zonta, the masked raider, will need his rapier when he does finally meet Michael Schumacher. But look at this. McLaren's away so well, and Coulthard, brilliant start there. Nearly got past Häkkinen, but he just gets through. There it goes. Zonta tipping off Michael Schumacher on the inside. Barrichello just escapes. Diniz spins off. Trulli crashes into Michael Schumacher. Fisichella out. And then he catches Ralf Schumacher as well. You can just see here Barrichello getting the little tap from Trulli, who'd started from 5th position in the Jordan. And then it's bedlam after that. And the Ferrari, the championship leader, was out.
You've been in that position in your old rally cars, haven't you? And your one thought there is, how can I get back into the race? And that thought obviously occurred to Michael Schumacher.
Because if you've had a crash and you're right near the front and fighting for the thing, you try and get the car into the middle of the stage, so you block it, it has to be cancelled. Any driver would try and do this. He's trying to get the thing red flagged, and he's managed to get the engine going, Schumacher. So, look, look where the wheels are. There's no wing. You're not going to race that thing. Where's he going with it, other than to try and get it onto the track and get it blocked? But ironically, Charlie Whiting, who is the race director, who's been supposedly the villain of the piece with the other drivers in the driver's briefing, he's the guy that acted so quickly and brought out the safety car, and Herbie Blasher, his assistant, as well, and the race went on.
A little secret that we found out, courtesy of our pit lane reporter James Allen, is that McLaren, those mechanics, worked fantastically hard to get the cars in shape before the race.
Well, we knew Mika Häkkinen had to have an engine change, and then we saw a little bit of smoke from Häkkinen's car. But those McLaren guys have worked so hard this year, and the people at Woking and Northampton, where they build the Mercedes engines, have just done such an incredible job. That car has got the edge now over the Ferrari.
News from Austria as well. It looks as though Alain Prost is coming towards the end of his career as a man in charge of the team. The Prost have been sold, as we understand it, and after what happened to his cars here today, he might not be that fussed about it.
But Jim, do you remember when we watched the French Grand Prix and there was a camera right in front of him on the pit wall and the pit stop went wrong behind him? I thought he was ill. I thought he was going to collapse because his face went and it was like thunder and so on. So clearly he's had a terrible, terrible time. And here's the two drivers together. That's the touch. A laser going down the inside. He said they were on different strategies. Heidfeld had no idea he was there, and then there is wreckage all over the track. The barge board flies off, the left front goes, and both of the cars are going out. And they've been reasonably competitive for once. Persia must be really upset with this. Now, Heidfeld has taken a lot of criticism from Prost himself. Prost described as being like the son of a broken marriage. He spends one night with his mother, the next night with his father, and that's because of his McLaren contract. He said he never really feels part of the family. So imagine driving in that atmosphere and then both going off and going back to face Prost. No wonder Prost said, look, I've had enough of this.
Big tick here for the British drivers, for David Coulthard, of course, right back in that world title, and for young Jenson Button too.
Jenson Button was superb to come from so far back down the grid, but it was also good because Carl Gaydon, the chief mechanic, and the boys from Williams BMW there managed to get him back out in front of Salo and Herbert. But he did everything right, Button. And Gerhard Berger is right. The guy doesn't make mistakes. He's smooth, he's fast. This is his first year. And then, having said that and praises him, he goes off at the last turn and he does what Schumacher did 2 years ago. But he drove on with a difficult car and got 5th place and 2 World Championship points.
Thanks very much, Tony, and here is your complete Austria rundown. We've seen the 4th McLaren 1-2 of the season. Hakkinen repeating his 98th victory here. Coulthard runner-up again in his 100th Grand Prix. Barrichello's 6th podium. Villeneuve 4th, that's the same as the French Grand Prix. Button 5th after starting 18th, a fine effort. Same goes for Salo, but expect a parting of the ways from Sauber at the end of the season. 7th, Herbert's best for Jaguar. Genet 8th, encouraging for Minardi. Deniz putting both Saubers in the top 10. Wirtz 10th on his home Grand Prix. Bertie finishing in his F1 debut, just a couple of laps down. Mazzacani, the last classified finisher. Zonta's engine blew. Ralf Schumacher had 6 pit stops. The Prost, they tangled with each other. Both Arrows had gearbox problems. For instance, Jordan, that one had a blown engine. And Michael Schumacher, Trulli and Fisichella all failed to get beyond that first corner. Our next port of call is Michael Schumacher country. We go to Hockenheim for the German Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time. Watch the qualifying live on the Saturday morning, the full ITV F1 service at 11:30. The race, our build-up starting, the German Grand Prix build-up starting 12:15 on the Sunday and highlights at 11:50. So another blank weekend for Michael Schumacher. He remains the favourite for the world title, but only just. The bookies can't separate Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. We have a 3-way scrap for the title. Good night.
Some important news from Austria tonight. Mika Häkkinen's win is now in doubt. The FIA will examine computer equipment from his car and announce their findings before the next race.
If you would like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by livesport365.com is www.itv-f1.com.